Matthew Tkachuk goes on every podcast because he loves that stuff. But the point, if they lose 6-1,
they're very confident right now.
Exactly.
Florida
is he on a podcast if they lose 6-1 the next morning?
Probably not. But again, that's not what we're asking. It's not podcasting. It's why did and I'm not saying it was McDavid that sent a trail the other way himself. I'm saying why did the team? I'm curious about this, and I'm curious how the league is going to respond.
I'm curious about the actual decision. Like, is it McDavid that said to the media guy, "We're not talking today," or
just leave us alone, let us go play or practice, and we want to be prepared?
Or did the media guy make the call and say nobody's talking? Coach, who knows?
I think it's a miss. Like I said earlier, I think it's a miss because what you do is you make a story out of nothing. If they would have just said, "Hey, guys are available, but these two aren't talking, or these four aren't talking because they've already talked enough." We're not talking about it. It's like, hey, you get Ekholm, you get Bouchard, you get, and all the questions are going to be asked. Do you feel like it's the biggest game of the season tomorrow? Who's going to play in net? All of that type of stuff. I think it's a miss just based on the information. You make a story out of a non-story because you didn't take the 10 minutes. That's the way
guys, whether you like it or not, it's just going to be a little bit more prickly tomorrow morning at the morning skate, I think.
Well, they should be. They're down 2-1.
No, I know.
Didn't play well last game.
But I mean, the line of questioning, I think, could get a little bit more prickly, and you kind of set yourself up for that because it's got a stupid look to it. Like you said, Jamie, it's 10 minutes. You can't just fire it off for 10 minutes. If you want to give garbage answers, but I don't know. It's just going to be a little bit spicy tomorrow where they're like, I don't know.
You're right.
How the media
is going to come in flying tomorrow.
Yes.
And be like, why did you do this? Why did that happen? Now Knobloch's going to have to ask all. And
are you guys panicking? Like they're going to get that line of questioning.
Absolutely. Where that would not have happened today. Even if it was just an off day, that's fine. I don't know what the rules are of some people have to be available. Again, it's the Stanley Cup Finals. You can mock the questioning and what are they going to ask. People have jobs to do. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's Stanley Cup final. People, media outlets have paid literally billions of dollars for this.
Right.
So you're supposed to be available. And if you're not, you're not. But it's one thing to just say not available. It's another thing to say, oh, no, it's an off day, and then it's not. That would suggest that something was awry here. And I think you're onto something, that tomorrow now, the usual suspects are going to get right in there and ask, questions that's what the story's going to be now. Why'd you do this? Where it shouldn't be. But tomorrow it should be about the game itself and possible lineup changes. And ultimately it won't matter if the Oilers show up and win tomorrow night. No one's going to care. Nothing's going to matter. But if they don't, it's just going to snowball into a position where by the time they get back to Edmonton, it's going to be crazy back there about how this trip went and how this final's going for them.
In the end, they started good, and it was a coin flip in Game 2. Game 3 was a debacle. They played awful. They need a response tomorrow. That's the bottom line. But Florida's not just going to go, they're going to play better, so, we better give them the
Well, of course. Florida's allowed to show up and make adjustments and play. And
I said it yesterday, guys. Paul Maurice came out, with just a crazy comment saying, I think Game 4 is going to be more like Game 1 and 2. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard in playoff sports. He wants Game 4 to be exactly like Game 3. Why wouldn't he?
Of course.
They won 6-1, and they dominated the game, and all of a sudden it's just going to change it up? I don't know.
I think he's anticipating Edmonton being much better.
I was just going to say, I think he was saying, I think it's going to be more of a closer game than what – you're not going to say, okay, we're going to have Game 4 just like Game 3.
Okay, if that's what he was talking about, if that's the storyline he was going with, just about the closeness of the score, I get that. But he's got to be telling his guys, just go out there and absolutely dummy them like that. It's going to be a tough chore, though. They're going to respond. They understand. And I know, Jamie, you just mentioned that they came back, that incredible comeback last year. To play with fire and do that again, that would be awfully crazy. Well, that's awfully crazy to tempt that.
I don't think you want to be into that. That's why I said it's must win, but I don't think it's like the series.
It's not literally must win, of course. It's obviously figuratively speaking, but it's an incredibly important game for them.
Tomorrow is the biggest swing game. It's 3-1 or 2-2. I mean, you do the math. I mean, honestly, it's a must win in the sense that you've got to put yourself back into the series and have an opportunity going home 2 of 3.
Right.
That's the biggest challenge.
Where they've been great at home.
Do the math.
Yeah, do the math.
Exactly.
They got a counterpunch.
That's where I was waiting for that.
I was too.
But honestly,
you got a counterpunch.
I just think today in a scenario, people making noise about it. A lot of it's the media members down there that they got nothing to do today, so they're going, "Hey, I needed a story and I wanted to talk to this guy," and they're not available, or they pulled a fast one, going, "Hey, we're not practicing," and all of a sudden you see those guys skating out. Now, I guarantee you, what the PR guy is going to say is, "Oh, we were told they're not skating," and 97 decided he jumped on the ice at the last second.
Of
and
course.
That's going to be.
They'll be dancing around it. And again, of course, it's not the end of the world.
It's a miss, though, in a sense.
Well, it is because of the platform. It's not. It's a complete non-story, and no one really cares that much. Although, again, people have jobs to do, and they're trying to relay the stories of the players and trying to connect with the fans wherever they happen to be around North America or around the world, for that matter. But if it's in November, December, whatever, this is the Stanley Cup play. Everything is amplified. Everything. And it's even more amplified on Edmonton because all the pressure's on them. Yeah. Right? Like, if this was Florida that did this today, I think it would be spun very differently. It would be, there go those rats, and, either not talking about it or look at these guys. They're the villains, and they're just like, I'm not talking to the Canadian media. Screw you guys. Like, it would be spun differently. I think because Edmonton's chasing the series now, because of the way Game 3 played out, and the pressure that's on them for Game 4, it's different. And there is somewhat of an obligation, possibly because you're a Canadian team, that you got more fans. Like you said, Noodles, you're covered more significantly. There's way more eyeballs on the Oilers domestically than there is the Panthers, right, down in Florida or throughout the U.S. But, it sets the stage for – this is the beauty of the final. Like, there's just different stories that pop up, different things that happen. And, by the time the puck drops tomorrow, it's not going to matter. It's just going to be about who shows up and who plays.
Agreed.
And who's ready to play. And I think the Oilers, I fully expect they respond. I think they'll be a lot better. Skinner's going to have to be good. But to me, again, it's always about McDavid and Draisaitl. And a lot of people the last couple of days have been pointing out and writing that, the depth scoring was so red hot for so long for the Oilers. It was inevitable it would slow down a little bit. And if that's happening, then that just puts more pressure on those two guys. Like if you're not going to get contributions, it doesn't mean they won't. It doesn't mean the third and fourth lines won't, or they won't get offense from the point or whatever. Or the big three. O's big three. It's, McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard. They're going to have just unbelievable games tomorrow night.
Well, they have to. There has to be a massive response, but you also have to take a look at it is this group has to find their game. Like, I don't think I agree with McDavid. I don't think they've played their best hockey yet in this series. They've had pockets of it. In Game 1, Ekholm scores, Arvidsson scores. Like, there was some support cast that chips in. But you look at it, the second period, they were no good in that Game 1. Game 2, same thing. Second period, no good. There's been pockets, and they can not laugh it off, but they can say, hey, both teams are going to have momentum throughout the game. But those are full periods, full stretches where where Florida was clearly the better team, but Edmonton finds, Florida was a better team in Game 1, but McDavid scores a dagger right at the end of the second period there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The shots were 16-4, something ridiculous.
Right.
And McDavid scores to make it 3-1. That's the type of stuff.
And you talk about Florida, Jamie. They do, as much as the Oilers players got to get better and to win this game tomorrow night. The Florida Panthers, we talked about it yet. They can swarm you and make your best players kind of look average. That's kind of what they do when they're at their best. They can make you dump the puck in, you don't get it back, and they're physical, and they make guys disappear. We've seen it in all the series they've been involved in. For stretches of times, they make best players go away. Now, those best players have come back and had stretches where they've dominated, like the Leaf players and sometimes the Carolina Hurricane players, but what they do is I think they limit it, where it's you might have a period here, but you're not doing it for 60 minutes, and you're definitely not going to do it the whole series. Yeah, and that's what they do, man.
Yeah, well, and that's why they're in the driver's seat right now, and they're in their third Stanley Cup final. Yet, tomorrow night and the rest of the way, it's on Edmonton to counter that. And I am looking forward to seeing what McDavid and Draisaitl have in store in particular. tomorrow night. Brian Boucher in about 15 minutes. Chris Pronger today. The Norris was announced. Not to anyone's surprise, Cale Makar ended up winning it today. That's his second in his career. That's an interesting total. Like, does he hit? If I gave you over under 4.5 Norris trophies in his career,
I'm going to say over. I think he's at least going to get a 5-pack.
You think so? Yeah. What did Lidstrom have? 6 or 7?
7, I think Lidstrom had.
Yeah.
7 Norris trophies?
I know, but he got so popular by the end, it was like they were just handing it to him. Like, he's such a great player, but I always challenged that. I thought Niedermeyer should have had more. I thought Pronger could have, but it was just Lidstrom.
He got him late in his career a lot. He went on that crazy run in his mid-30s.
Right.
And
like he was.
It was, he won some. I thought he won 3 or 4 in a row. I looked that up, but Lidstrom had a run where it was crazy.
Yeah. But he, he was an unbelievable player, but he was a unique player. Like a lot, he wasn't physical. He was just really smooth, didn't get hit ever. You talk to players who could never hit him. He literally never got hit. Mm-hmm. Like he was just so elusive. He was just a very smooth 30-minute-a-night player, distribute the puck, quiet, great leader, good person, all of that type of stuff. But he got that mantra. It was like, remember Shea Weber was always a perennial. Mike Pekka was always a guy. Now we're seeing
Barkov with the Selke, exactly.
It's just like Barkov gets
just give it to him.
Hand it to him every year. Not that they don't deserve it, but there were other people that are in there or should be in there, that conversation. And
feels like Makar is creeping towards that, right?
Yeah.
Like if he's healthy, it's just like, well, he's the guy. He gets it. He scored 30 goals and 90 points. This year. Like he was definitely a deserved
30
award.
Goals and 90 points.
Like the guy is an unbelievable hockey player.
Yeah.
But
I do think that's one thing about the award, Hayes, where I don't know, like could Jacob Slavin ever win a Norris trophy? There is so much of a focus on points. It's like you could almost say the defenseman, the highest profile defenseman with the most points is going to have the best chance. Which I don't know if I necessarily agree with, man.
Well, there should be 2 separate awards, almost like an Art Ross for the defenders, and then, like a Jacob Slavin type of thing, a guy who's an actor, like Gus Forsling. Like Forsling should be a guy who would be in the conversation of best defenseman in the league. Defenseman.
Yep.
Like a guy who shuts
But when you
things
go
down.
from Gus Forsling to Cale Makar is going to win out every time.
100%, because Makar.
So maybe it's fair that Makar just wins 5 in a row.
Yeah, but I guess I think you could have 2 separate awards. One that actually a guy who is a rover, because you see that's what a lot of these DR are rovers up in the play, creating offense. Defensively, I would look at the Slavins, Forslings, guys like that who are traditional defensive defensemen. There should be an award for that. Like
gets complicated
the
at
Brian
that point.
Hayes Award. That's how he played in Barrie.
Exactly. The stay-at-home, just stud defenseman. Absolutely, I like that idea.
I'm for it.
Okay, Brian Boucher later this hour. Chris Pronger coming up. Jerry's percentages at 5:30. We're tracking the Jays. We've got our U.S. Open picks as well. Oakmont. I'm worried that there's such a buildup. It's like that movie that's coming out, like greatest movie ever. You won't believe it, that you're going to be disappointed if someone shoots 3 or 4 under, the course doesn't hold up, because it's almost like Augusta in a way that this story is more about the course, how great Oakmont is, and every player saying it's the toughest thing they've ever seen. Where if these guys go out and torch it, will that be somewhat disappointing? We'll catch up with Scotty Vale in a couple of hours, caddy for Keegan Bradley, good friend of the show, big Leaf fan, Scotty, in a couple of hours. And, again, tracking the Jays in Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. Oklahoma City a 5-point favorite, 5.5-point favorite going into Game 3 tonight. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
HSN takes pole position for your NASCAR coverage.
Unbelievable!
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Hazy, I saw a tweet today of an activity or a festival this weekend that you probably destroyed back in your heyday. The Taste of Italy. I can't imagine you wandering around hammering Peronis and eating penne.
Yes, exclusively penne. And gnocchi, possibly a lasagna. Although I'd bring my own lasagna. You know I'd bring my own.
Dude, if you set up a Hayes lasagna booth at Little Italy Fest, they would kill you.
Yeah, it would honestly be the end of me. You'd never see me again.
Do you know those like Borat, those just obscene things he would do where people were so grossed out?
Yeah.
They would kill you.
I think it would be a similar reaction to Borat. I think it would be. Like if I showed up totally ignorant to it, I thought everyone brought their own thing. Like it was kind of a potpourri of like Italian food. And I set up with my lasagna with all the ingredients that would really probably bother everybody.
Cottage cheese.
Oh, yeah. Just stuff like like no-name sauce and, stuff that would really bother people.
You would rattle a lot of nonas there, though. You'd rattle a lot of people if they were there. And
I would, Noodles, until they actually tasted my lasagna, and then they'd say, "You're in." Put a vowel on the end of that name. Hazo. I'd be Hazo from now on. And you're right, though, man. Taste of Little Italy. The Taste of the Danforth used to be my go-to, man. You'd be cruising down the Danforth. The food was phenomenal. Yeah. Great festivals in the city, right? We've reached that part of the schedule or part of the calendar where there's a lot of great activities every single weekend. There's something else going on somewhere in the city. We need a little OverDrive festival somewhere. Where would we set that up? I don't know.
Boston Pizza.
I guess Boston Pizza. Yeah, I guess we could do that.
Do a tour of Italy there. Some pastas, some pizza.
I think before the NHL season, we have OverDrive Fest at Boston Pizza downtown.
I love that idea. And we need to make it happen.
What the hell are we gonna do? Are we gonna have like a Jerry's percentage booth?
Precisely that. I think it'd be great. We're all set up in different spots throughout a Boston Pizza, and people just kind of cruise through with their plates full. And
a hot take station.
Hot take station. I'll be there. You throw a mini Jerry. You got to confirm or deny in a corner. Noodles is yelling at people about different things. Al's brother with some football picks. That'd be outstanding.
Football picks and charcuterie station with Al's brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't miss that, man.
That would be hilarious, though. A hot take station, and Hayes is just yelling at people with hot takes, and they're countering with their own hot takes.
Well, that's the beauty of it, that it just keeps going until, I close the doors.
It's got to be like a hot take machine, like the Much Music. Remember that Much Music machine where people would get blasted and they'd go out downtown? Speaker's Corner, and they would get crushed and then wheel in there, and they'd be like, they would be so trash.
We should have an OverDrive Speaker's Corner where people just go in with their hot takes after a game or something.
I like that idea.
Set up right outside a Leaf game, and people just go in and say, "This guy was great."
We get to watch them and play it the next day. I love where we're going with that.
It would be.
I like the thought of that myself. I do. Yeah. I think the wheels naturally will be in motion here.
No, they won't.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. There was a picture that circulated online. I thought that's what you're referencing. We'll get to that a little bit later on. We need to break it down based on what I saw earlier today. Jays in action. We're tracking that. The Jays are red hot. They did it again last night. They're the hottest team in sports right now. Step aside Florida Panthers. Step aside anybody in the NBA Finals. The Blue Jays are on fire. I have to believe it's like 45 degrees down in South Florida right now. Like, how hot would it be trying to prepare for a hockey game tomorrow night? Here's a longtime NHLer. You see him on the NHL on TNT. Here's Brian Boucher. Give us a weather update. What's it like down there, Brian?
Oh, it's unbelievable. 89 degrees, no thunderstorms. The pool is it's been fantastic all day. Shade's just taken over, but a remarkable 2 days off here in Fort Lauderdale.
So would you splash some water on your face, or would you ask Jake Wallman to do that for you?
Were you pissy about that, Boucher?
Well, of
or
course,
was
yeah,
that
I would
just...
be pissed too. He was in between the benches trying to work.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed by it, truthfully. I thought I was being a bit of a baby there. Like, the one squirt I got, then he did it like 2 and 3 times. And I don't know why I reacted. I reacted like a dad almost. Like I was banging on the glass, like telling my kid to cut it out, you know? And immediately right after, I had complete remorse. I was like, oh, man, what did I just do? Because, like, you know, you guys know how it is. Like, it's their game. It's not about... you shouldn't even know that I'm there. And truthfully, I was embarrassed that I did that. But he came over and apologized at the start of the third period. He was totally cool about it. He's like, I'm totally sorry. He goes, I was mad because, you know, they took my glove and stuff. I said, I'm sorry too. So it's all good. He was a big boy about it. But I wish I could have, you know, gone back and played that differently.
Boosh, from what you saw at ice level, that 6-1 kind of thrashing there the Panthers put on the Oilers, how far of a distance did the Oilers have to travel to kind of take the next game? Because that was a beatdown, and people are talking about the ice being tilted, the series being tilted. Like, how far do these guys have to go to kind of make a statement and take Game 4?
It feels like a long way, truthfully. Just the way it went down. You know, you understand third period. It's garbage time. You take, you know, you try and get your licks in. I get all that, but you know, aside from that, like I haven't seen like Nugent Hopkins. To me, I haven't seen him in this series so far, and he's playing hurt. He doesn't look right. It's, you know, they took him off the power play there in Game 3. The depth that was there in Game 1 that I was so impressed with, like Kapanen and Podkolzin and Arvidsson, you know, not as noticeable, probably partway through Game 2, now into Game 3, and it feels like that gap is widening. It feels like Florida's, you know, that annoyance and that ability to get underneath your skin and get you off your game, and it feels like it's growing. You know, at least at ice level, that's what I feel like. And maybe the 2 days off is perfect for Edmonton, and they can kind of regroup, reset. But you know, unless some other guys get going, I mean, it's going to take huge games from 97 and 29 to get this thing back to even. And they got to stay out of the box. I mean, you can't take the penalties you took in the first period. I understand the penalties were even, kind of, but the reality is, what if Edmonton has 3-1 power plays in the first period and they score and they get those guys going? They took penalties that I thought were careless penalties, and I thought it took them out of the flow of the game, and they never could catch up.
With Brian Boucher, the NHL on TNT, Game 4 Cup final tomorrow. And, you know, Hyman's not walking through that door. Like you said, Nugent Hopkins clearly is not at 100%. And for me, and I think for all of us, like, our focus goes to McDavid and Draisaitl because they weren't very good the other night either, and everything was out of rhythm for the Oilers. But, you know, how much can you expect out of them individually tomorrow night? And if you're Paul Maurice and the Panthers, you know, it's impossible to completely neutralize them if they're on their game. But Florida does a really good job of finding a way to poke away at superstars. What do you think that's going to look like for McDavid and Draisaitl tomorrow night? What would you expect them to be, you know, facing in terms of how Florida is going to attack them tomorrow night?
I think we're going to see more of what we saw in Game 3, where they just very little space. Draisaitl had very little space. Aside from McDavid's first shift of Game 3, it looked like a frustrating night for him. You know, McDavid's gotten hit twice in this series. He got hit in Game 2 in the middle of the ice. He got hit by Ekblad last game. Like, it just feels like those guys are trying, but there's just not enough behind them the way Florida has that depth and the way that they've got such responsible players on Florida that can do it at both ends of the ice. It's committee that they can put out there. It can be Barkov. It can be Lundell. It can be Bennett. And it doesn't have to just be Forsling and Ekblad. So they've got so many different people that can shoulder the load of trying to shut those guys down. And unless Edmonton can find some depth contributions, I mean, it just feels like, I know it's exciting to watch 97 and 29 together, but it feels like they've got to do it separately, and they need more from other people in order for those guys to be effective. And yeah, you can put them together at certain times, and obviously on the power play. But if you go to it too early, I just feel like I think it's a death trap for the Oilers. I think somehow they got to get some other guys to help them out.
Boucher, the last time I checked, none of us four are filing any stories this evening. That's correct. I don't think any of us are reporters. We don't care what players talk, players don't talk. What did you make of the Oilers kind of not having the guys out there to talk today? Is that like no big deal? That's their choice, or what do you make of it?
I don't have a problem with it. I think playoff time, you've got to find a way to keep the guys fresh, and I think if you can. With the 2 days off, it's kind of weird too. It's not like it's a typical. It's not like it's a typical off day. You've had a couple of hours. Yesterday was the day, so I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's just odd that you have two off days in one city without travel. So I can understand it. These guys have got to they've got to reset. They've got to find a way to find some energy, and they got to win one game. If they can find a way to do that, however you need to do it, get this thing to 2-2, and it's a best of three, and you got home ice. Maybe, them keeping them away from everybody is a good thing.
Bush, what do you make of the goalies? I mean, Stuart Skinner didn't have a game, obviously, but, Bobrovsky, what do you make of his game, your ice level? And I thought he was really good early on last game and then didn't really have to contribute after that. But overall, what do you make of that matchup and how it's unfolded?
Yeah, it's unfolding probably the way I think, everybody would expect, right? Bob is a guy that's at the height of his game. His focus is impeccable. His preparation, he stays out of all the nonsense. He doesn't get caught up in a lot of, extracurricular. And he's doing what I think we all expect him to do. Skinner, unfortunately, this was the big question mark coming in. What Skinner were we going to get? And game one was encouraging. Game two, I thought that, there was signs that there was some cracks, and I think in game three we saw what we saw early on in the playoffs, and then to me that's troublesome. I mean, just the idea that some people are talking about, boy, they should go to Pickard for game four. I don't know what you think, Noodles, but I mean, you go to Pickard. I mean, it's over, in my opinion. I think I give Skinner one more shot here. Let's see what he can do here in game four. I mean, I know he's got great game four numbers. I don't know what the heck that means, but maybe it means something. And win one game, and if he doesn't, and you're down 3-1, and you want to get desperate and go to Pickard and have the guys fight for the backup, I get it. But I think turning to Pickard right now would be a panic move, and I think unnecessary. I think, Skinner wasn't. I don't blame it on him. He, would he loved to get a couple of saves, maybe fight off Verhaeghe's great shot, or find a way to, fight off Reinhardt's, maybe get a big save on the Bennett breakaway. It didn't happen. I'm not blaming it on him, but certainly he's been outplayed by Bobrovsky so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, the biggest thing for me is I thought it was pretty even the first couple games. Last game, he got exposed, but so did the rest of his team. So if it was that his team played well and he was no good, then game one, I believe it was game one or game two against L.A., where McDavid, what was the big comeback where McDavid
Game one
scored?
where they stormed back.
Yeah,
yep.
That to me should have been a one game by the Oilers to storm back, and I didn't think Skinner was good. I thought their whole team stunk last game. So I think you come back with Skinner saying everybody gets an opportunity for retribution, and if they lose, then yes, then you start throwing changes into the mix to try and get back into the series.
Well, again,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I think he's undefeated in game four, like you said, Brian. I don't know if it's worth anything, but it can't be a bad thing necessarily that he shows up well in game fours, and it does feel like that's just always an underlying story. We're talking and when they win, it's Skinner's not a big part of the chat. When they lose, he is a big part of the chat. Yet the combo of Skinner and Pickard, they've been to back-to-back Cup finals, and I'm curious. You experienced that in your time, and you got Bob on the other side, who is just this invincible figure that can't be stopped and can't be beat, and he's playing every single night. And on the other side, the two guys have jockeyed back and forth for a couple of years, but that's the nature of the NHL with 32 teams. There aren't that many superstar stud goalies, so the patchwork is almost necessary for a lot of teams.
It's going to take a big effort from their group, everybody, right? I mean, They've got two of the best players. They have the best player, and then maybe arguably the next best player. But it's going to take a group effort in order to help out the back end, in order to help out the goaltender, so that they can give themselves a chance. I think stay out of the box. I mean, if you can, like, I understand you want to play in your face. Like, you can't be taking stick penalties. Keep your stick down. You can't be. Those are just. They're bad. They're momentum killers, especially a team like Edmonton that I think they feast off of getting going and getting on the power play and they get buzzing. If they can do that, allows Skinner to kind of settle in. And I still felt like it was a game though. Like it's funny. Like in the second period, they were right there. I could sense they were getting frustrated in the second period. And obviously they took that late penalty at the end of the second period. And I know it was garbage time in the third, but they were right there. Even though they were as bad as like they were, man, if they just get a power play or two and you pop one in and there's life, but it didn't happen. They got to find a way to reset and hope that their goaltender isn't the story the way it's been in the series.
Who do you have as the Conn Smythe favorite on the Florida side of things?
Bennett. I mean, to me, it's got to be Bennett. No. With how many road goals does he have? Has he got like 12 or whatever?
I think it's Bennett. The only guy that can catch him is Marchand. If Marchand has 2 hat tricks or something crazy here, possibly, but that's what it'll take for him to dethrone him because it's Bennett. It's Bennett all day long.
Yeah, I mean, 12 goals in the play and on the road. That's remarkable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just you can't even quantify. Like it's not a statistic that you can put, but like that shift, he smokes 2 guys. And then scores on a breakaway. Are you kidding me? It's like magic.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. And it speaks to the depth of Florida that the leaders in the clubhouse through 3 games are the second-line center and the third-line left winger. Like, that's who we're talking about as the Conn Smythe blocks. Like, that's pretty
called
much
true depth. Not just saying
exactly
you have kind of good players up and down your lineup. You have guys on your second line and your third line that could win a Conn Smythe. That's true depth.
That's exactly what it is. All right, Brian. Great stuff, man. Stay cool down there. Get back in that pool, and thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
I'm heading right back in the pool right now. Thanks, guys.
Boy. There he is, Brian Boucher, the NHL on TNT. Yeah, I mean, when the dust settles, again, we still have more games, and we'll see how this plays out. But if Florida ends up winning this, that will launch into the conversation of, like, where do they stack all time? And there's always different eras that you have to, consider. Like post-salary cap, I think is important. It is a completely different world, completely new era. But, if they're 2 or 3 years away from another cup or 2 more cups or whatever, then you bring in the Islanders of the 80s, the Oilers of the 80s, the Habs of the 70s. Like, all of a sudden you start talking, like you blow past the salary cap stuff. And I think what we just stumbled across there is the best example of it. Like, there is a very good chance that either the second-line center or which has happened before, like Malkin won a Conn Smythe in 08, there's obviously it's happened. It's not, as if it's unheard of. But I think Marchand is a third-line left winger with a chance to win the Conn Smythe, and in large part because of how well he's played, but also because it's not just Barkov, it's not just Reinhart, it's not just Forsling or Ekblad or Bob. It's the whole lineup. Like, if you watch the Panthers like we have, like you are familiar with everybody. Like, Luosterainen is like a household name for hockey fans. It's a guy on the third line. Like it's you just Nate Schmidt is a guy like where with other teams.
Winnipeg wanted to gas him. They're like, get out of here.
But you're right.
Perfect
like Nate
scenario
Schmidt
down there.
Thing is exactly like you're slotted and you're playing well. Like Nate Schmidt. Was playing either too high in Winnipeg or the team above him wasn't as good as the Panthers. That's the truth.
And a great story about that guy. He got there and he tried some stupid-ass pass and he got – this is just – who knows how these stories float around. But it was reported. He got back to the bench and somebody grabbed him and said, we don't make that play here. That's a stupid-ass play and we don't play that game. Homie, don't play that.
Yeah. Well, that's, the old culture thing, and even the whole discussion about the cap and getting guys to buy into it and take less money. Part of it is state tax, of course.
I don't think that's culture, Brian. I think that's just winners, like winning hockey, a winner, a smart hockey team guys that know what works and what doesn't. I don't know, like this term culture.
Yeah, it's all encompassing. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just like that's
winning
just
culture.
winning. Yeah,
yes,
winning.
Of course
It's
is.
a winning brand of hockey where you do stupid ass stuff. You're not petulant about it. You don't go, oh, I tried. Like I thought there was a good play there. You just, somebody says to you, which used to happen a lot in the NHL, that's garbage. Don't try it. And all these guys now, they're like, well, I thought I saw somebody there. It was a good try. I said, no, it doesn't work. So don't do it.
Right. And
it's using your head. Smart plays.
Once you start winning, man, you can get people, like, you can sell the discount because they've won, right? Like, it's not easy to do that elsewhere. Like, please take a little discount so we can win when everyone's looking around saying, I don't think we can win with this group. Where in Florida, it's like, yeah, they will win. Like, you can win. And they're 2 wins away from doing it again. And it's on the Oilers to, get back in the series and make that basically not a possibility. Because, this would – and I don't want to put the cart too far before the horse, but it would be crushing to lose to the same team 2 years in a row. Like, just crushing.
Dude, you'd lose a lot of sleep over that nonsense.
You look at it. They've actually lost, I think, 4 years in a row to the Cup champion. Have they not?
Edmonton?
Yeah. They've lost.
I don't know. I know the Leafs did that a lot.
If they lose this series, which again, it's 2-1.
I know
there's
that.
a lot of people that are putting dirt on a grave already, but
I understand that. I'm not doing that.
If they lose,
well, I mean, it's possible they lose. We're speaking hypothetically.
No, my point, but if they lose in this one, and then the year before, I think it was they lost to Vegas, and then they lost to Colorado. I think those are the last 4 Cup
That's
wins,
a very
correct?
Leafy thing to do, is they lost to Tampa and Boston.
Well, I mean, but it's not in the first round. That's the difference. It's not.
I hear you. I'm just saying.
Like
if the Oilers are saying, "Hey, we lost to the Cup finalists," then them and the Leafs should meet Winnipeg and shake hands.
I'm saying, like, that's the if you look at it, the pathway, like it would be frustrating to see
Very
a team that eventually. That was my point.
And this one in particular, because you're literally in the Cup final,
you're right there.
Like it's right in front of you. You got to get it. Right. Chris Pronger in 20 minutes. Jerry's percentages coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
the Canadian Grand Prix on TSN and CTV.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Just watch me dance.
Chris Pronger, Jerry's percentages coming up in the next hour. Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. Oklahoma City, 5-point favorite. They never cover on the road. They haven't been great on the road. We caught up with Danny Green yesterday. He pointed that out. So we'll look ahead to that game a little bit later this afternoon. We'll get to our U.S. Open picks. You know, it's about to break loose in the NHL and in the NBA. You know, when the finals come to an end, you roll right into the draft and free agency.
Yeah.
And I found these Kevin Durant reports very curious the way it's being worded. Everyone's reporting it the same way, that Kevin Durant and his business partner are looking over possible trade options. Like,
what
not
does
his
that even
agent.
mean? Yeah, what does
like,
that
why
even
is
mean?
his business partner? Like, I've never really seen that before. Like, is this about winning? Is it about marketing? Is it about, you know, making more money?
Kevin
all
Durant
that is
and James Harden, they've just gone to the well too many times, man. It's like, stop it.
right.
Like, stop it.
What is this?
You're not that guy anymore, man.
Well, and that's
crazy,
the truth. Is like KD, he can still score, he can still shoot, he's still Kevin Durant, he still scares the hell out of opponents. But come playoff time, you know, he hasn't really factored in a long time because he's been on bad teams. And I don't know. I found that curious. Like, his business partner, what does his business partner know about whether or not Kevin can win if he goes somewhere else?
That is weird.
You know?
Like, it must be just framed the wrong way. His
Yeah,
business
there's got
partner
to be
might
more depth to it than that.
Yeah, like just his business partner's looking at a trade. Like,
Right.
is that his buddy who he deems his business partner? What was the guy? Is it Guerrero or whatever, that Tom Brady's guy?
Yeah, that was the
Alex.
TB12 guy.
Yeah, like,
but he
you
was
know,
like his training guru
Life
or
coach.
lifestyle guy.
That's what, you know what, we're dealing with one. O has a guy that. What if every time we made a decision, like O's like, okay, my life partner and I.
My
life
muse.
coach? So your life coach, isn't that what it's called? That you
yeah,
use
his
that
life coach, his
guy?
muse.
My
Like,
life coach is great, though. Like, I
Yeah, I
ask
know,
him
but-
about fitness. Like, what should I do? Like,
I know,
he is
but let's
he
say
is-
we want to do
Let's
something
say
with
we
the
have
show.
a meeting on OverDrive, and it's like the three of us, and you're like, "Yeah, my life coach has to be in there." I'd go, "Get the hell out of here! You got
I'd
nothing
be
to do
fi-
with the
you
show."
guys would both say, you go work somewhere else because I'm not doing that.
I would.
It'd be the
but
Nate
that's what-
Schmidt conversation.
No, like
I don't do
Noodles,
that
if we
here.
were in a meeting and you said, guys, before we make a call on this, I got to bring in this guy, I would say, Noodles, I don't ever want to work with you again. I'm sorry. And that's
But
how it
what-
would operate.
Durant's life, whatever,
His
coach
business
his
partner.
business partner
Yeah.
is in the mix.
Well, he's
That's
a
the point.
basketball player. What the hell business partner does he
That's
have?
what I'm
That's what I
saying.
mean. That's what we're talking about. It's
Like,
insanity.
Do you want to win, or are you looking for side deals and endorsements?
Yeah.
You know, and tickets and stuff.
Yeah,
you know, like
it's
I
just
would
a
think
weird-
KD would be like, and I'm obviously he's going to make the final call. Like, these guys are businesses within themselves. They make so much money and they're so marketable and all that. But I don't know. I don't get where the business guy comes into play on, you know, surveying all the different rosters and the different potential for winning, you know, in the
Yeah.
future and for Kevin Durant. Chris Pronger coming up, Jerry's percentages, and James Duthie found a picture somewhere online that was posted on Twitter today. We will show you it. We will address it. We'll do that next.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Hour 2 OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Jerry's percentages later in the hour. Chris Pronger coming up here in a few moments. The U.S. Open starting tomorrow down at Oakmont. We'll have our picks, and our boy Scotty Vale coming up in about 90 minutes from Oakmont. And tracking the Jays, they're red hot. Alejandro Kirk, he's either behind the plate or he DHs. Like, he's got to play. He has to play every single day because he's the hottest bat in baseball right now. And the Jays are red hot. They're chasing down the Yankees, and everything's coming together. And I was on Jay last night, and Jay asked me, and he brought up a good point. He's like, the internal improvements have arrived. They finally showed up. The internal
Well, you know what I
improvements.
loved is, I don't know if it was, we might have had Ross on or it was Schneider that said, the offense is like so close, and when it does click, it's going to be like really good. And we were all like, is this guy on drugs? Like, one of them said, I think it was Ross that said that. Like, we think that it's right around the corner, and when it clicks, it's going to be outrageous. And I honestly wanted to hang up the phone on the guy because I just didn't think it was true.
Well, we were having Jerry's percentages saying, can they get to 80? You know, they're on pace for 80 wins, 85. Like, what are they on
Let's
pace
be real.
for now?
We were hating these guys 3 weeks ago.
Listen,
Hate.
And they deserved all the criticism last year. They were awful. They didn't start well. A lot of the same issues. They hired a new hitting coach, which went somewhat under the radar because it's always more about Santander and Scherzer and Vladdy's, contract and Bo being up for a contract. That's
You're
always
telling me at that
louder.
level it's a hitting coach?
I think it clearly factors into an extent. Coaching matters. Like they had Guillermo Martinez here forever, and they just never got their mechanics right. They never had the right approach at the plate. Mattingly was heavily involved. They pushed him out. And whatever this new hitting coach is doing, it's clearly not all him, but he's obviously factoring into an extent.
I never understood that, Bri. I just never have at that level.
But it's about approach. It's about a mentality. It's about, like the most minor detail can have an effect, right? Like what your approach is when you're up in the count, down in the count, where you stand in the box, how you study the opponent, all that kind of stuff. Anything can help, if it's framed properly. And listen, it's on the players because they got to go out and perform, but they are performing. Like they are leading in almost every significant statistical category offensively for about 5 weeks now. And unsurprisingly, now they're winning ball games. So more on that a little bit later on. So James Duthie wasn't happy with you last week because you felt like he was assassinating your character, and then I think you went over the top and started assassinating his character, right? That's kind of what was happening. A little Billy Bats kind of move, you know what I mean? Like,
well, he loves tearing people down.
Okay. Well, you tell me, because he posted a picture of you. I have no idea where this picture came from. I can't believe we're only finding this now.
It's glorious.
School shot of you. Where are you here? You're at high school?
I'm at King City Secondary School, and I think I was doing a photo shoot for
Those aren't your books, then. There's no way.
No,
those are props.
Brand new.
That's not even
What
your.
the hell are you talking about? Their props.
That's probably not even your locker. You have no idea where your locker is.
That's
in
not
that.
even
That is my locker because I have a Brett Hull signed 8x10 and a Mike Ricci signed 8x10 in my locker.
Okay.
Wow, love it.
So
That
what's
looked
the
pretty
story
clean
here?
back
A
then.
photo shoot for what?
Dude, I have no idea how this guy gets a hold of this picture. That thing's been locked in a vault forever. He must have come into contact with a photographer and probably said, "Hey, and I got in the archives just a bunch of old stuff." And I was doing a photo shoot probably for the upcoming draft or something in the OHL. I don't know, man. That gear is insane.
I like the khakis. You know what you look like is Zach.
Dude, that's a
Zach
black
Norris.
leather
Yes.
with a blue and white stripe and a brown pant with a tight tuck and a brown slipper loafer.
Yeah.
It is Saved by the Bell.
That's
you're
right,
Zach
man.
Morris or whatever that guy is.
You're Zach Morris. Like, where's
Yeah.
Screech? You're a preppy, dude. That's AC Slater in the corner calling you preppy.
It is.
Where's Kelly
You're-
Kapowski at? You're probably chasing her around the halls.
That's Zach Morris right there.
That is.
Like,
What
It's a
is
Von King. That's a Von King for life jacket, though, boys.
Which is a great man. I'll say this: like growing up MTHL, you played in it. They used to have the most incredible leather jackets for the players. They were the most marvelous. They don't make those anymore.
Von Kings?
No, I don't think any of these teams make them anymore. Everything's, athleisure.
We used to
I
have,
know. Sweatsuits.
Sweatsuits, man. Bring back the leather jackets for the kids.
We
Dude,
used to
the
have
leather
felt.
jacket was back
best.
in the
Yeah,
felt, man. What are
we
you
had
talking
the
about?
felt,
The
we had the
50s?
felt. No, we had the felt with the leather sleeves. I have one in storage.
I remember those too,
at my
man.
place.
Those were very solid. Very solid.
And you would have your name, whatever team you played for, your name and number were on the arm. Like you had, it was like, is felt the right word? I think.
No,
it was
I know what you're talking about. It was
felt jacket, thick felt, and then it was leather sleeves.
Right.
Like for me in St. Albert, the colors were, whatever it was, blue, white, and yellow. Like
I know exactly what you're talking about, man. I that was the same thing. I remember when I got up to Barrie, that was the big thing. If you made the team.
Yeah, you got a jacket.
You got the jacket, and it was like everyone was rocking that jacket. But I remember growing up as a kid, I remember my uncles having old, young Nats jackets that were so sick and probably still in great shape. And I don't think the kids understand how great the jacket game was back in the day. But, that picture, I need to find out. I'm going to text Duffy and see how he stumbled across that.
I guarantee you he talked to a photographer about something. And the photographer, I don't know what he would have been digging around for. And the photographer said, oh, yeah, I have a bunch of old, there's probably a Brian Hayes action shot kicking around there, too.
That's doubtful. That is deep in the archives.
I think there's a chance there might be.
There might be. We can find it if we can. But
that guy would have been hanging around an OHL game with 6-1 in the third period where you got a courtesy shift. But
well, that's where his boss would be like, why did you waste? What are you doing taking pictures of that guy?
You're wasting our energy and expenses on batteries taking a pic of the seventh defenseman in the third period of a blowout game.
You never know. Anyone can pop at any time. All right, Chris Pronger coming up here in a moment. The Jays have won. They won 5-2. They've swept the Cardinals. They've won 12 of their last 14. The Blue Jays are a wagon. They are on fire.
Now.
They're on fire, man. They are absolutely on fire. I think that puts them 3.5 games back of the Yankees. And
that's sick, man. It's the offense. Like we've been saying for 2.5 years, they literally couldn't hit it out of the infield. And we were like, God, this is not only bad baseball, but it's just so not entertaining.
And they're doing it with Vladdy's got 8 home runs, doesn't he?
Vladdy's, he had a couple of hits today. Al Kirk, there he is. Alejandro Kirk, DHing 2 for 5. Guy's on fire, man.
Mini hut. They put him in the
mini hut. The mini hut. Everything is working right now. Where even someone posted yesterday, it was a great tweet. Looking at the lineup yesterday, a month ago, you'd be like, this team's going to get crushed and they're going to lose 7-0. Now with the confidence, you get some wins and you look at a lineup totally differently. Jays sweeping the Cardinals, and again, they've won a lot of ball games lately, and they're chasing the Yankees. I'll bet you the Pete's had a great jacket game back in the early 90s. Great Pete's old-school jacket.
Ugly colors, though.
Yeah, I never loved the maroon and white. I wasn't a huge fan. Here's Chris Pronger. Prongs, do you remember that? The old OHL jackets back in the day? Did you get one in Peterborough?
I wish you would have gave me a heads up. I would have been wearing it.
Yes. Yes.
And by the way, Noodles, don't ever speak of the Pete's in that tone with the maroon.
Awful colors. Awful maroon.
Yeah, classy. Old school classy.
Classy maroon, exactly.
Yeah, because those old Lethbridge Hurricanes jerseys were so sexy.
I'll tell you what, that's Washington Capitals colors. They look pretty damn good, don't you think?
Sure.
Maroon, I don't know. Honestly, I remember I have to dig up a Lethbridge Hurricane coat. That would be pretty cool.
Next time we have Prongs on, you guys have your jackets on, and we'll really make this pop.
O-Dog, you got a Guelph Storm jacket by chance?
I don't think no matter how much progress I've made in the fitness category, that baby just ain't happening, Prongs. That one ain't working.
It's funny you say that, O-Dog. I saw a post today with a young Jeff O'Neill standing outside of his locker.
There he is. Look at him pretending like he's going to class. Why is there a beer picture inside?
You know what?
your
The first thing
locker?
these dummies say,
What are
Bronx,
in
they're like
those
those.
books?
Yeah, that's exactly what everyone says. Those are fake books, aren't they?
Still have the
Not
stickers
even
on
like
them.
other school books. They said fake books.
props.
Fake props.
Props.
Empty page books.
Right. The photographer bought it. But why did he have a picture of a beer? Were you in like middle school? Where were you? Was that high school or what?
It's stupid high school stuff. You put stuff in your locker, and it was like all my buddies. We get Canadian and.
Okay.
Enough of the pit. It's
right.
the Stanley Cup Finals.
Hold on. One more thing. Hold on. I saw a nice picture, a signed picture from Mike Ricci.
Yes.
Nice touch.
Yes.
Nice touch.
There's a Peterborough Pete.
By the way,
right?
Yeah.
fellow Pete's alumnus. Thank you.
Yes. Legend.
Yeah.
Legend. You guys
Thank you, one of you guys, for bringing out one of the positives from the pick.
All right, there you go.
Because God knows the brown pants just weren't cutting it.
It's all good.
Look at those pants. Good God.
You got Holly, Mike Ricci, and a Molson Canadian. Nice
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I love it. Everything's covered.
it.
Yeah, so Prongs, we were talking, about the Oilers and, multiple days off in the same city, how rare this is, in the Cup final.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever experienced anything like that, where you're on the road, you're in a hotel, you spoke the day after the game, and then the next day you kind of just don't want to talk to anybody. That appears to be what happened today down in Florida. Can you understand where the Oilers, and in particular their best players, are maybe coming from?
Yeah, I think they've been talking an awful lot, not only after the game, but throughout the course of the playoffs. They understand what they need to do to change the tune or the temperature of the last game. I look at that as an anomaly and something that they want to just kind of X off the page and just be done with. If they're talking about Game 3 instead of Game 4 today, I think it becomes a bit of a nuisance and a headache. And if you're them, you just want to kind of get after Game 4 and prepare and have an understanding of the mistakes that they made in Game 3, things that they can do to change the outcome, and then go execute on them in Game 4.
Prongs, do you think anything, they're the oldest team in the league. They're a veteran team. You think anything needs to be said, or is it more just you take a look at some of the dumb mistakes you made and, some of the, lack of discipline plays? I mean, do you think there has to be, rah speech or, these type of meetings where everybody sits down and kind of lays it out there? Or do you just park it and say, everybody stunk, let's get ready for Game 4 type of thing?
I think it's part of the latter, but I think it's also the leadership group standing up and saying we need to be better discipline-wise. We have to play a discipline with respect to penalties, and whether you agree with the penalties or not, discipline to penalties, and then discipline to their game, to the structure, to the way that they play, and not get off track trying to match Florida's physicality or match the way that they play, and focus on what their identity is, focus on how they play the game. And whatever they're doing, they need to fix their second periods because they suck, plain and simple.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Prongs, it seems like if the Oilers get to a 3-1 deficit and it's McDavid Draisaitl time being paired up, isn't it time to just start the game with those two and just say, go win us the hockey game? Or is there just not enough depth there after that, like depending on Nugent Hopkins or whatever? Because after that, you need something.
Yeah, no. If they lose Game 4, I don't like their chances. I think if you're Edmonton, this is a must-win. You got to get it back to 2-2. You needed to split the two games in Florida, either Games 3, which clearly they're not going to win that one, and now Game 4. They need this game in a bad way to kind of get back to Edmonton, change the narrative again from, Florida's rolling and Florida this, Florida that, and get back to what we heard in Games 1 and Game 2, that it's great hockey. It could have went either way, and they're very, very competitive. Game 3 was, I think, it got off to a good start for the Oilers, but it got off the rails real quick.
With Chris Pronger and, the officiating, whenever you have a game like that, it pops up, the losing team's not going to be happy. And they have a gripe here or there with some of the calls and maybe some of the missed calls on the other side of it. How would you anticipate, or how would you expect the refs to officiate tomorrow night? Do you think it's more likely they call a lot early, or do you think they put the whistles away?
That's a great question, and Noodles can probably attest to this. I wasn't exactly the cleanest person with the officiating.
Right.
Yes.
So you hope they put the whistle away.
But no, with respect to just how you talk to them, how you manage them, I did a lot of yelling early on in my career, and kind of was a little tepid as I aged. But I think they need to focus on their game. I don't think they can get caught up. They need to play with a physical edge at times. The player, Frederick and Kane and Perry being greasy around the net, and Connor Brown getting in on the forecheck, things of that nature. But they cannot step out of their comfort zone and the way that they play just to, whether it be appease the fans or try to settle scores with Florida in the physicality department. They're not going to be as strong or as physical as the Florida Panthers, period. They need to play in the offensive zone. They need to cycle the puck. They need to go low to high. They need to get traffic to the front of the net. They need to compete to get to the front of the net and get in Bobrovsky's face and his eyes so that he can't see point shots from the half wall, etc. They didn't do a very good job in Game 3. And, that's one of many things that they need that is a simple solution and a simple fix. But overall, I think it's just compete and not getting so focused on the nonsense that we saw later in the third period when the game was out of hand, and it really doesn't matter. You're trying to send a message, you're trying to get a few licks in, and I've certainly been there and done that. But at the end of the day, the players are just turning the page. They're not focused on what happened in Game 3. They're focused on Game 4, getting off to a good start, and then rolling from there.
What did you see defensively from the Oilers? I mean, as far as their D, do you think that they moved the puck fast enough? Were they efficient? Like, to me, I thought they got caved in, and it was Florida's forecheck that really gave them some problems.
Yeah, they had problems with their gap control. They had problems holding the blue line. But I think the biggest issue, and we see it in the second period, but we actually saw it in the first period as well, they're holding the puck too long. They're waiting for a play. And sometimes the best play is just off the glass into the neutral zone, bouncing pucks. You never know what's going to happen. You've got forwards coming with speed, and just kind of live to fight another day. And I did not see that from them. The Sam Reinhart goal, which I thought was a backbreaker for them. Klingberg turns the puck over. Yes, he runs into the referee, but he was already in the process of turning the puck over. And whether I think Skinner was screened a little bit on that shot. Wallman went down to block it, went through his legs. And, he's got to just, as he's coming around the net, he's got to rip that off the glass and just get it out.
Yeah.
Prongs, if you were a GM and you wanted to sign Sam Bennett this summer, how much would you pay him?
It depends on where you're playing. Is this a no-tax state?
Exactly.
We're not going to factor in the tax.
All right. I would not pay him $10 million. Personally. I wouldn't. He's earned himself into the 8.5 range. You start getting up into the 10s, you're overpaying. You got to get into the playoffs too. And he provides something that a lot of players do not, as we know: physical, score goals, face-offs, kill penalties, power play. He's a great fit where he's at. I personally don't foresee him not re-signing in Florida because of the fit, and also because of what they have up the middle. They've got Barkov in the 1 hole. They can put Bennett in the 2 hole for now, and they got Lundell in the 3 hole, and then they can roll the 4th hole, whatever. And as Lundell goes and Bennett maybe falls off a bit, move him to the 3 hole and move Lundell up to the 2nd hole, which clearly he's on his way towards trending to a number 2 center in the National Hockey League.
So a lot of reports over the last 24 hours that Anaheim may be acquiring Chris Kreider, and they were the ones that went out and got Trouba, last year. It's almost like the Rangers in Anaheim, they just have, this bat line set up where Anaheim will take whoever the Rangers are willing to give up. And Trouba's still, got game, big contract. Kreider's got a lot of game, big contract, though, and it sounds like Anaheim's willing to eat it all. If and when that happens, we don't know what's going to go the other way. But what do you make of Kreider being the guy that New York clearly decided he's going to represent our identity change? Something's got to happen, and Kreider's going to be the guy that goes.
Before you answer, the Rangers have exactly no stones now. 0.
They're playing finesse now. The New York Rangers are in the finesse game. Mm-hmm. And we've now just seen how that plays out.
Right.
So, I think Chris Kreider actually is a great fit for the Ducks in the sense that they've got a bunch of young centers. He plays with pace. I think the big knock on him is his inconsistency. He just hasn't shown up with the same effort night in, night out. But he's been to Stanley Cup Finals. He's been a key cog on a number of teams, the Olympics, Four Nations, and obviously the Rangers. And, I think he brings another element up front that they need and a little experience, to help with those younger players up the middle. And I think it's a good fit. He doesn't have that much left on his contract. So it actually, I think, makes a lot of sense for the Ducks to go out and acquire him. And, if you're the Rangers, I think Drury's just opening up cap space to see what he can do.
Do you think that there's going to be a lot of trades and movement, given that the free agent class is what would be termed slightly weaker than other years?
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that as the cap continues to rise. Teams, whether it be freeing up space or not getting to the cap, as it continues to rise, there's only so many teams that will be able to get to the top. But also, I think teams and fans and media were all talking about, well, look at next year, look who's going to be available. As we all know, those guys are not all going to be available. There will be, if we're looking at the top 10, 2026 UFAs, there might be 4 of them, maybe 3 that are going to maybe get to July 1. Most of them will be re-signed with their current teams or get signed and traded or what have you. So, I think teams have some cap space and flexibility for the first time in a long time. I'm not sure they want to start spending it so quickly and lose the flexibility that they've now just achieved.
Yeah, it's interesting where, there's certain teams that also just don't feel like they can get the big guys, right? And maybe Anaheim's in that position where, if you're going to spend the money or if you want an impact player, you're going to have to trade for him. Where the Rangers clearly feel like they can splash money around and players are going to want to go there. But you bring up a good point about like not only the ceiling going up, like the floor goes up too. You got to spend money. Like these teams, you got to spend a certain amount of money, and there's going to be teams I think it's going to be great for a certain amount of players who are going to get overpaid to go to certain teams, but you got to, not everyone can go to Florida. Not everyone can play for Tampa or the Rangers or an original 6 team. You got to fill out 32 rosters.
Yeah, early on in the cap, we saw players going to different organizations and teams to kind of fill in to get to the floor, if you will. And I think as the cap is now rising again, I think you'll see the same where teams have to overpay some players that they think are good fits for the chemistry of their team or for their young players just to get to that floor. There's not a lot of contracts like mine and Hossa and Datsuk left to pick up to get to the floor.
Where did you end your career on paper?
I was Arizona, but
nice.
I got a T-shirt out of that deal.
Yeah, get this guy an alumni jacket.
Alumni coat.
Maybe
By
Utah.
the way, they were almost a maroon. What was that ugly color that they had? What kind of red was that?
Yeah, they did have that kind of going. It was not quite a maroon.
They went to like that with a white logo almost.
Well, no, but they had the maroon jerseys with that weird. I don't know. That
wolf head.
Yeah, the
wolf head or
coyote.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
I guess it
Or
was a
coyote head.
But the
That's
coyote
what it
had like
was.
purple, and it looked like it was
Wolf
missing
head.
an eye, and like
It was
it
a
was
coyote.
Like, yes.
Literally a coyote. That's
Oh,
what
a
it was.
coyote. That's right.
A wolf head.
But you go.
Get those books back out. Put that picture
No, it was just
back
a sheep.
Here's the thing, though.
I
I'm
was
gonna.
drawing wolf heads in those old books back in high school.
Hey, here's the thing, though, Prongs. You even admit that ugly maroon color. You said they
Right.
had that.
You got
so I was
yourself
like,
there,
No,
Prongs.
I'm quoting
Gotcha.
you. Quoting you.
Oh, okay. Fair
it
enough.
on you.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Absolutely. All right, Bronx. Next time we get you on, man, you got to wear the jacket. You got to bring the jacket on.
I am going to make sure it's on the back of my desk chair here, just in perchance that we have a meeting. There it is.
Beauty.
Except-
Yeah. There
except
it
the
is.
opposite.
Love it. Yeah.
Except the
No,
opposite.
there's the other one where they were maroon and it looked like there was purple
Yeah.
involved. It was
Yes,
like a
you're right.
weird. And
That was the
checkered.
original, like
Yeah,
Shane
like-
Doan, Kachuk,
Yeah,
like
Shane
Eddie
Doan.
Olchuk type
Yes.
look.
Yeah, that.
Back in the days.
Brizgalov.
Yes.
Yes.
Old
Grizz.
school. Old school. All right,
Exactly.
Bronx. Enjoy Game 4
All right,
tomorrow night.
guys.
All
Have
right.
fun.
You got it. There he is, Chris Pronger,
You bet.
joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Peterborough
Wolf head.
Pete's alumni.
That
See?
is true. The wolf head, like
The wo- well,
I was trying to
Both
remember
of you
too.
said it. Well, like a wolf kind of.
Yeah,
or
it's
a
like
coyote.
some animal or something. Yeah. Oh, a coyote. Of
Could
course.
be a coyote.
Yeah.
Well, they might get a team again. Like if this expands to 36, right? Like it sounds like Atlanta, Houston, maybe Arizona gets back in. I don't know.
I still can't believe Quebec. They're
never
going
gonna
to
get one.
No,
Like,
they're never
unfortunately,
getting
there's
it. They're
just-
never getting a team.
They're never. It's never coming back.
I can't believe I played against the Quebec Nordiques in that, and it was a wonderful setup. An unbelievable. The team, the jerseys were unbelievable. The
Yep.
team was good. Like, I believe maybe the building's just not big enough there in Quebec. I don't know if they can. Or the businesses have left and they can't, it's not as big of business infrastructure. I have no idea, but I always felt like playing against the Quebec Nordiques was really cool. I loved it.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you consider in our lifetime, like there was a baseball team in the province, obviously
Yeah.
the Expos, and there was another hockey team. And like you got to go. That's more than 30 years ago now.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's been a long time. Well, the man responsible for some of that will join us. Jerry's Percentages coming up.
Nice.
And Pierre LeBrun from the Cup Final just after 6. Scotty Vale and our U.S. Open picks in about an hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
You're going to want to hear this.
Jerry's percentages.
I don't love being commissioner as much as I used to. I actually love it even more.
That's the voice of a Hall of Famer.
Are you kidding? Have you been out drinking?
You're all pigeons. Filthy, filthy pigeons.
It's Jerry. Gerry.
All right, so we left Jerry high and dry last week, right? He was prepared to come on, and this time last week a storm, came through Osprey Valley, and we had to get out of there, so we left Jerry hanging, and again, high and dry. But we said, you know what, Jerry, we'll make it up to you. Cup final, I know you're a busy guy. Let's see if we can get you back on next week. So here he is, and he's got takes. You guys ready for Jerry?
Yeah. Let's go.
Jerry's been down in South Beach the last few days putting on an absolute clinic. Speedos and Skechers have the ladies shaking, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Jerry and my friend Bill Daly put in a shift with no shirts at the elbow room till 4 a.m.
Wow. Did you see Jerry sitting at the desk with his Skechers on?
I did.
Speedos and Skechers in South Beach, man. It's a gnarly parlay. And Jerry appears to be really setting a tone down there, man. Good for him. He's feeling good, as he should. That's his market. That's Florida's one of his go-to spots. All right, let's see what Jerry has in store for us in terms of takes. Go ahead, Jerry.
Time for McDavid and Draisaitl to put on their own clinic. And that's exactly what will happen in Game 4, because those two will be the clear-cut best players on the ice.
Calling a shot. Two best players on the ice, McDavid and Draisaitl.
I'm going to say 85%, because the one thing you got to say, like, it's kind of everyone's down and out on Edmonton right now. They always kind of respond. Like, they've showed a lot of jam in these playoffs. Go back to the first round. They were down and out, almost really out. If a puck had got out, I'm going to say 85%.
I'm lower on this just because of the field. Like, that's
a lot of good players.
A lot of good players playing very well right now. I'm going to give slight edge to the two of them, but like I'm talking 54% type of thing.
Okay.
Because I look at a lot of, like, Bennett, Marchand, they've been great. Bobrovsky, Barkov. And it could be Evander Kane that has a game because he wasn't very good last game. It might be RNH. It might be somebody else. It could be a Stuart Skinner game that's needed. So I'm going to play the field on that, but I'm close.
I'm going high on this, man. I just feel like it has to happen.
They know it.
I'm going to say 97%.
Holy smokes!
I'm going to say 9.
You did a Quizmaster there. It's David's number.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It was kind of cheesy, but McDavid called his shot effectively. It's not quite Messier. It's not quite Babe Ruth pointing to the outfield, but he said we haven't shown our best, but it's coming. And this is when it has to be here.
Yeah.
It's got to be tomorrow night, and they're the two best players. Doesn't guarantee anything. They certainly weren't the two best players the other night. But there's this kind of underlying concern that you can pick up on that Nugent Hopkins isn't healthy. All of a sudden, Hyman not being around is picking up. Can you rely on Podkolzin and Kapanen and maybe Klingberg comes out and Stetcher goes in? It puts more focus on the two of them.
Yeah,
and
you can't sit around and wait for Kapanen and Podkolzin.
They have to be great. It's that simple. Every sport is different, but this has got to be like a quarterback moment for McDavid, in my opinion, or a Michael Jordan in the finals moment. He has to have a masterpiece tomorrow. He's got to. He has to be great.
Yeah,
he's got to be the best player on the ice. And I think Draisaitl right behind him.
It really brings up the idea, Hayes. Like, if you look at the Florida Panthers, and we talked about the Toronto Maple Leafs with the Big Four, and Craig Berube was like, that's all I hear around here, the Big Four. Do you know what Paul Maurice talks about? His first line, his second line, his third line, and possibly his fourth. So if these guys can't get it done, although they've gotten there 2 years in a row, it's like, how obviously you want the best players in the world, but if it's all about, like, we're talking about two players playing unbelievable, and on the other side, a guy's saying it might be our first line, might be our second line, like a lot of different options as opposed to two players.
Yeah, and listen, Edmonton's got a lot of other options. Like Boucher can play, and Ekholm can play, and Skinner could stand on his head or just play well.
Isn't it a big three? Thought that's what we established yesterday.
I disagreed with that. Believes that it is. I don't. I still think there's separation with these two guys.
Yes, I
personally. And, yeah, I don't think you can overstate how important it is for both of them tomorrow night. Like
it's a massive
you
game.
got to have the best game of your life tomorrow night, and then do it again and again. You got to win three more times.
Yeah, it's only game 3, but the problem is if they would have lost 2-1 in overtime, you'd be like, okay, somebody had to be up 2-1. It's the way they lost. That's that's where I feel like the magnitude has really sprung on here. It's the way they lost. How we talked about it in Toronto, Game 5, the way they lost. Game 7, the way they lost. That's the biggest challenge. Is it adds on to that they lost. So not only did they lose, it's double magnitude the way they lost.
Insult to injury.
Because if all 3 games were overtime games, then you're going, somebody had to pick off another OT game. That wasn't the case. So that's where it's added 50-pound weight on top of everything else.
All right, Jerry, what else do you have?
These Blue Jays are starting to bother Jerry because they're hot on the heels of my Yankees. And they'll catch them in the standings at some point this season.
Ooh, Jerry. That's a take. Now, the 3.5 back after this afternoon's win. Only 3.5 back in the Yankees. A lot of games against New York, too.
I'm going 10%. I think the Yankees, regardless of what you say about the big, bad Yankees, the consistency they've shown over the last few years, like, they're not going anywhere, man. Judge is out of his mind. Like,
he's
out of
his
his
24th
mind.
now? 24 does he got?
Yeah, he's the best player in baseball right now. Like, it's absurd what Judge is doing. But they don't, their depth is good. It's not great. They've run into injuries. And as much as I expect the Yankees to just continue to plod along like they always do, the Jays are red hot. Now, they got to avoid falling off a cliff and then losing, 6 of your next 7, and then this just goes up in smoke. That's the challenge.
That's what scares me, because I know what these guys have, like, I know their true identity, and I don't know if this is the real Blue Jays. And I'm scared to death that they're just going to morph back into the team we've seen the last couple of years. I'm going 10%.
I'm low on this just because of what you were saying too, Brian. They've reeled off 10 of 12 just to get to 3.5 back.
Right.
Like they're not going to continue on this type of winning pace. Now the Yankees, might drop off. They might have a stretch where they lose 8 of 10. But the point being is I'm lower on this too, because I think the real Jays are somewhere in the middle of this. Not that awful start and not this heater, somewhere in the middle. And I think that falls below the Yankees.
I think you're right. Go ahead.
15%? 10?
Yeah,
15,
I'll go a little bit higher. But, I'm in the minority on it, too. I'll say 35%. Again, Jerry's just saying at some point you catch them. 3.5 is not a huge gap. Now, again, the Jays have done all this, and their run differentials like +4. You know what I mean? Like, it's, again, this is a rocket ship that they're on right now. It was mandatory for them to reset and get back into it. Now the season really starts. Now the chase is really on. But they got the Yankees in town for 4, I believe, at the end of the month. I think they have 10 more games against New York. You can make it up against New York on their own. If everything else is a wash and you find a way to go 6-4, 7-3 against the Yankees in those 10 games, that could be the difference here.
Right.
But that'll be a fun series, because I think they're here on Canada Day too. I think it's Jays Yankees down at the Dome on Canada Day. That will be electric, especially if the Jays stay hot for the next 3 weeks. Go ahead, Jerry.
Aaron Rodgers will start every game this season for Pittsburgh.
Absolutely. Are you Jerry?
You don't think so? You don't think 42-year-old recently married Aaron Rodgers will start 17 games?
Well, here's 2 different factors. I think there's an outside chance that at one point this year, Mike Tomlin is absolutely going to hate his guts and tell him he's not playing. And the other is health. Like, do you see him and Tomlin kind of?
Tomlin needs him, man. Tomlin needs him.
He does.
He needs him. They both need each other. Tomlin, like, look who's his quarterbacks have been recently: Justin Fields and Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett. And like,
dude, that's on the organization, man. He's the head coach. Like,
absolutely.
They've been either trading for donkeys or drafting donkeys.
Right.
They drafted Cabbage Fingers with a high pick.
Right. Because he went to university in Pittsburgh.
Cabbage Fingers.
Mini-me, and he was throwing pizzas all over Heinz Field.
Yeah. He was throwing spirals with his knuckles. A knuckle throw.
A knuckler. But I think he's gonna start. Like, he blew his Achilles out. That's an anomaly. Like, that's a bad play, bad field.
But think of all the time that's passed since that's happened.
I know.
This guy's just no kid anymore, man. And I know Luke, my partsy, loves him. And everybody loves what he's been in the past. I don't see it happening, and I'm going very low on this. I'm 5% he plays every game.
Wow.
I don't care how much Tomlin needs him. I think this thing goes off the rails at one particular point this season.
They might, and that'll be hilarious if and when that happens. And
that one with Tomlin and Rodgers.
The theater would be remarkable.
I'm low on this just because of the health of the body. Like, he has been a durable guy throughout his career, all of that, but it's just the age is the biggest thing. I don't know. Speak to me about Pittsburgh's defense. Like, are they going to be able to protect him? Or
TJ Watt's
for his
holding out. He wants a new deal. They better figure that out pretty soon.
Is this guy running for his life every night? That's the worry. I mean, it couldn't have been worse than the Jets because he was getting hit and he was a mess there. But I'm low on this just to. I feel like he's got a game off one or two in there somewhere, whether it's an injury. So I'm going to say 18%.
I'm going to say 51%. I'm into the majority.
Wow.
The protection is going to be mandatory. It has to happen for every quarterback, especially an aging one. Yeah. But they're generally a competitive team. They were a surprise team through 12, 13 weeks last year. They were a great, great team. And then the wheels fell off down the stretch and into the playoffs. Tomlin, he's above 500 every single year. 18 years in a row, he has a winning record. So you almost start there with the Steelers. Can Rodgers get them above that and push into home field in the first round or compete for the division? It's not going to be easy. The AFC's loaded. The AFC North is going to be very good, especially with Lamar and Burrow and all that. But they need each other. Like, Rodgers needs to prove that the Jets were the debacle, not him. He needs Tomlin to help him do that. And Tomlin needs Rodgers to help him win again because he hasn't won a significant game in the playoffs in a long time. So 51%. One more, Joe.
That sneaky old Phil Mickelson will make the cut this weekend at the U.S. Open. Hope he doesn't see old Bones walking around the fairways.
Yeah, Bones will be there for NBC.
I don't think him and old Bonesy had a good separation as player caddy.
No, I don't get that impression. But what about Phil making the cut?
I think it would be so Phil Mickelson to make the cut. But how on earth that guy of all people, just a little side note, Hayes, I'm afraid of what Jordan Spieth is going to do out there.
Dude, he's going to be hitting golf balls in places.
He might shoot 90, that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how a professional with that much skill, I'm getting off track here, like his caddy hasn't just pulled him aside or his coach and said, dude, you're strong enough, shorten up your backswing and find some fairways because you're a great iron player and you're really creative. You can't find the earth. This guy's he's going to be – I want a speed cam. I'll watch that at Oakmont.
It will be incredible theater to watch him chop around. And he'll hit some shots that are miracles out of the rough, and he'll do some wild stuff. But
Phil making the cut, I don't know how because he hits it all over the map
I don't see it, man.
I think he's 60% Phil makes the cut as his last hurrah. I don't think he's playing in another U.S. Open after this one.
No,
I
believe this is it. I think this is it, and it'll be 55 on Monday. It would be fitting. It would be a great story, regardless of what's happened with him the last handful of years. But I'm going to say like 25%.
Yeah.
I just worry that this guy is just too wild all over the place. His craftiness and all that. I don't know if it'll work on a place like this. Like, it's just, here's this shot that everyone's buzzing about. That's a brilliant, cool trick shot, but it's not live.
It's a one-off. That's not every.
That's live,
that
dude.
shot.
That has nothing to do with Oakmont and the U.S. Open.
Right.
There's going to be some scary golf, Hayes. Like there's going to be guys doing some weird ass stuff, man.
Yeah, I was watching them do the drone footage of the front nine today, and just every breakdown from Oberholzer and Paige McKenzie. They're like, "Well, this is death. That's death."
I know. That's all they were
this is
saying.
death.
Yeah, you missed this screen over here. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead.
Crazy. And then Wagner was out with Ryan Fox, on the back, and he asked him, because Fox had never played it before, and he said, well, I'm through 16 holes, but it's the toughest course I've ever seen in my life. Like, he had never played Oakmont before. It's got the potential to be pretty wild, and I love it. I'm looking forward to it. But I'll say 40%. Phil's got a shot. He's got a shot, but I don't think it's a great one.
21% for
21% for Phil. All right, U.S. Open picks coming up. Scotty Vale will join us as well. We'll get his take on exactly what it looks like at Oakmont. Like, how tough can it be, and how do the caddies get their guys through the next 4 days? Because this is very, very difficult when it comes to the mental side of things as well. And Pierre LeBrun from the Cup final in 20 minutes. Jays are on a heater. They won again today. They've swept the Cardinals. More on that and Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Pierre LeBrun coming up. Scotty Vale, our U.S. Open picks as well, courtesy of TaylorMade. And I don't know if I just get Scotty Scheffler this time, or do we have to flip a coin? Like, usually he's my guy. Rory's your guy. I don't know how we're going to do that.
I'm a man of integrity. I'll stick with Rory McIlroy.
Really? Okay. Yeah. All right. Then I'll take Scheffler.
He's a fellow TaylorMade athlete, a colleague of mine.
He is a colleague of yours. Yes. And I don't know what he's saying, but this QI35 driver is the greatest thing I've ever hit in my life. I'm just going to say that right now. Talk to the guys I've been playing with. I am mashing this driver.
Yeah.
It's my favorite driver I've ever had, and I do not say that lightly. Why don't you just
go down to Oakmont and hand him your driver and say, try this one, Rory.
I should. And then putt left with this one, Rory, and see what happens. Can't be worse than what you did last week. Can't be worse.
Can't be worse. He's like, if you had the fascinating player watch category, Rory's right up there with Spieth. Like, what is he going to do out there?
Yes. I can't wait to see McIlroy and the action he's got out there.
First tee ball, I got to see it.
Yeah, got to see it. So more on that into the next hour. Pierre LeBrun coming up. There's, Jonathan Taves, his name is out there a lot, apparently, down at the Cup final, about what could happen and him making a choice. That's a guy I want to see playing the NHL again. Like, that's a great story, right? Like, that's a really cool story. Him making his return, what it's going to look like, how much game he has left. So we'll get into that in the next hour. It seems like Winnipeg would obviously be a team that would love him, and he's from Winnipeg, or he's a Manitoba guy.
What about Chicago? Like, they could use him. Play him with Bedard.
It's an interesting thought, like the idea of bringing him. Although, is that just too daunting? Like, is it just he's too big for that now? Like, you put him back there, and you got to make him the captain immediately.
I don't think you do. You say, you know what? If it works out and after Christmas you look like the captain again, maybe we'll think about it. But you're just a player on the team now. Get your feet underneath you.
I don't even think he would accept it. I think he would more just go, let me play here. Because what if he's there for a year? You're going to give him the C and then move it on? It might be like an honorary
Taves, though, man. The guy's going to have a statue outside of that building.
I
think
agree.
Nick Foligno wants to be doing captaincy duty with Taves in the corner.
No, that's true.
I wouldn't. If I was Foligno, I'd be like, I'm not taking this if he's around.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's fair.
More on that into the next hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on YouTube Live.
Outcome here in the 114th playing Ryan Fox. 4 extra holes for Victor over Sam Burns. 62 for Sam, but disappointment nonetheless.
This concludes the PGA Tour's coverage of the RBC Canadian Open from TPC Toronto in Caledon, Ontario, Canada.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Final hour OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Scott Vale, caddy for Keegan Bradley. Scotty will join us in about 20 minutes live from Oakmont, U.S. Open. U.S. Open picks later in the hour. Pierre LeBrun coming up. Game 3 NBA Finals tonight. Jays are on fire. They swept the Cardinals this afternoon. Game 4, the Cup Final tomorrow. Pierre LeBrun in just a moment. And we were just talking about Jonathan Taves, where the reports are indicating he may make a decision on where he's going to play within the next couple of weeks. Can't officially sign until July 1st, but he's a free agent. He didn't play last year. Right, so he's different rules. He can talk to whoever he wants to and make
fascinating to see what that deal will look like.
Can you imagine anything beyond a 1-year deal? Like, do you think anyone would give him 2 or 3 years? And
yeah, depends on how desperate you want him into your fold, right? I think he can get a couple years depending on the setting. Again, if you're trying to get a number, like. If he's got 5 different teams
I don't even think, Jamie, he wants more than 1 year. Like, he's just trying to get back. He's just trying to get back playing.
I agree, but he's going to pick a setting where he feels it's best suited for him. Comfortable environment, a role where he doesn't have to be the man. He can just be a contributing guy and kind of wade his way back in the league. He'll want to win too. Yeah, agreed.
Well,
I agree.
What if it's Florida? Like, what if he signs with the Florida Panthers?
Yeah, Sam Bennett moves on, and they move Lundell up and say, Taves, you can have our third-line center if you'd like.
Pretty
for
good
$1 million
setup.
A year.
Pretty good little setup. State tax.
Not bad.
All that good stuff. Here's Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. Pierre, what are you hearing on Jonathan Taves? And, who's in the mix to possibly sign him?
Yeah, what I know is that when the news first got out a couple of weeks ago that he was 100% committed and coming back. I mean, the agent for Jonathan Taves, Pat Brisson, his phone exploded. Some people just want to know like what's what. But what's happened here over the last couple of days is that Brisson has shortened the list to 3 or 4 serious possibilities for Jonathan Taves. I don't know what all the teams are on there, but I do know Winnipeg's one of them. Beyond that, I think it's possible Colorado is potentially one of them, but I don't know all of them. And at some point,
we have to ask you, Pierre, is Toronto on it?
I don't know. I'm not saying they can't be. I mean, listen, it actually would make sense to me when you're talking about wanting to change the DNA of some of your team and your Brad Treliving. But I don't know that Toronto is one of them. I just can't. I just can't answer that for sure for you. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up with the goings-on today in Florida. Are you disappointed you couldn't write a piece today on an off day that the Edmonton Oilers didn't show up to speak to you?
It was strange. I don't think that I've seen that before in the Stanley Cup Final. I actually didn't go to the rink today because I took a day today.
Maybe the Athletic. We should be calling out the Athletic and going, geez, why wasn't there a reporter at the rink there?
We had plenty of reporters there. We had Michael Russo and Chris Johnston and Daniel Nugent Bowman there, but I took a day to get up to date on all the goings on around the league because I have a rumbling blog going out on the Athletic here this evening.
Okay.
You needed to recharge too.
Yeah, it's a busy time. Well, you probably saw some of my tweets. I also put out some news on the Penguins ownership front. That sort of came out of left field with Mayor Lemieux and Ron Burkle and Dave Morehouse wanting to buy back the Penguins from Fenway. I don't know if they're going to be able to, but I know for a fact that they're exploring it. So
why would they do that? They just got out. They just got all that money. Why? Because the Penguins stink now. They're like, this can't continue.
And they're going to have to pay a boatload more.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's fascinating. Certainly, I think that the fact that Fenway, and it's public, Fenway announced several months ago they were soliciting minority stake positions, but this is not this. I mean, they want to buy the whole thing back. I also hear there's another group that's been calling, so who knows where this goes. Yeah, the timing is interesting, but to answer the question, the reason all this is even potentially happening is because Fenway seemingly wants out after buying this team in 2021.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder how Kyle Dubas and company would be feeling about that. That's a bit of a different world, maybe possibly moving forward. And I saw you tweet that I guess the CBA talks, everything's all good. The NHL and the PA, everyone's happy with each other.
Yeah, it's getting closer and closer. They had another bargaining session here today at the Cup final. I think what you'll see happen here over the next couple of weeks, guys, is someone's just going to say, well, it's done, or it's done in spirit, or it's tentatively done. And it's always hard to, this is a complicated document that they're negotiating. The reality is, from talking to someone involved today, they are inching closer. And I think that the league hopes to have a tentative agreement to put in front of owners at the June 25th Board of Governors meeting here this month. So it really is getting there, but it's just that there's still, I'm told, 5 to 6 issues that both sides still have to get through, but they're not major ones. I mean, they are really getting through here to a CBA agreement here before the end of the month, I think, which is, it's pretty unbelievable when you consider the history of labor negotiations that when Noodles would have been part of as players, but usually these things aren't this smooth between the NHL, HLPA. So honestly, I think it's a relief to a lot of people.
How much of the language is regarding the state tax and the taxes? Everyone else talks about it, Pierre. How much is it going to be in this document?
I don't think it will be in it at all. Gary Bettman and Bill Daly were asked about that right before Game 1 of the Cup final, and they basically said, that's not going to be in this thing, that we're not addressing that. And it's because they don't think it's that big a deal. We could argue all day about that, but it is worth pointing out that before everyone wanted to play for Florida, now no one wanted to play for Florida for about 25 years. So, I think being a good team and having chances to win is pretty important, not just the palm trees that I'm staring at right now outside my window.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, when you look at it, Pierre, I played there in 06 or whatever it was, the building was pretty quiet unless there was an original 6 team. And, I always thought that they built the rink in the wrong spot. That's, it's out in Sawgrass.
Well, they did.
Yeah, they did, but they've made it work. I played against the Panthers when they were in Miami, and it had to be fenced in because it was in one of the roughest neighborhoods. I felt like in America. It was gritty, very gritty.
I never went to that rink. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
fight your way out of the rink.
The rink really is in the middle of nowhere, but I don't know that they're going to find a better solution. Their lease with that arena is up in 28, I believe.
Yeah,
and I had heard whispers that maybe ownership, Vinny Viola, was thinking of maybe building a new NHL arena in Fort Lauderdale close to their practice facility. But now I'm hearing that maybe there's just not that much land in Fort Lauderdale near the ocean. So I think they're probably stuck where they are, I think.
So what do you make of, where the series is at? I know Edmonton didn't speak today, but, your sense around it. Is there some panic? Is there frustration? Or is it, poise and somebody's got to be up 2-1 in the series?
Yeah, I don't sense panic, but certainly the Oilers are trying to find their way around the situation they're in now. They were almost up 2-0 in the series, one shot away from that, and now they just got clobbered and they're down 2-1. The entire series to me hinges on tomorrow night. Edmonton has to win and then have 2 of 3 at home. I don't know how they can go home down 3-1. But, let me just walk you through the last couple of days, because I wonder what you three think of it. But, originally they were going to have a day off yesterday, which is natural for when you have 2 off days in the Cup final and you play late the night before. Normally you keep the players off the ice the next day and then get back on the ice the day after that, right? But they made a decision late Monday night after that loss to instead have a full skate yesterday, which, by the way, I think was the right call. And part of what was explained to me behind the scenes is that, I think there's some on the coaching staff who feel that they've just had too many optionals here during this playoff run, and that they needed a real full skate. And that's as hard. Someone in the organization told me that's as hard as they've gone, as good a practice as they've had in a month that they had yesterday. And I think part of the concern was that, I think part of the coaching staff is that they kind of lost their legs in the middle of Game 3. Like they weren't where they should be physically. And that's not shocking when it's mid-June and you've been playing for 10 months. I mean, they played like 101 games now, 102 games. But so part of going back on the ice yesterday was for conditioning. And today was supposed to be an off day, as you guys alluded to at the start here. And, 97 and 29 went on the ice for a surprise optional, and a bunch of their teammates joined them, which I kind of see as a bit of leadership there in this crucial moment in the Stanley Cup final. Let's get back on the ice. Let's get at it. And I think they'll do a full skate tomorrow morning ahead of Game 4. So just that whole sequence of events and the decisions that are happening behind the scenes, how they're treating these 2 off days after such an embarrassing loss in Game 3, I think is very, very interesting, because, that could have gone a different way.
With Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. So you mentioned, the rumblings, and we've discussed a few of those rumblings that you'll be writing about. Anything else we should be keeping an eye out for? Like, what else is going on, non-Cup final related that has people buzzing down there?
Yeah, well, even just the general tone of what I've heard here over the last 48 hours as I dug in and talked to a number of teams and player agents, one of the fascinating things to me that's emerging, guys, there are no sellers right now. The Pittsburgh Penguins appear to be the only team truly selling. And what I mean by that is, like, even the Chicagos and San Jose's of the world are telling teams, we're done selling parts. We want to add. We want to be buying some parts this summer. Montreal wants to add a piece. Detroit wants to add. Anaheim trying to complete a Chris Kreider trade. Anaheim wants to make a bunch of other moves. Utah wants to be a serious bidder. So all these teams that had rebuilds or retools or were sellers for a number of off seasons here are all trying to turn the page. But in the meantime, so are the usual contenders trying to buy. And so as a number of team execs told me today, they don't remember an off season, or at least the start of an off season, where basically every team's trying to buy. Well, you can't all be buying. That's not how it works. So if you're Pittsburgh, I actually think there's some pretty good opportunity here with Brian Rust and Rickard Rakell, because for teams striking out in free agency, the trade market is shaping up very strangely with so many teams trying to add. So that would be one big thought right there, that is so different than what I've seen here the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, that might open the door for, some quality teams to be sellers in a way that maybe you didn't see it coming. Like, again, you think of the Leafs, you think of Dallas, you think of Carolina, like these good teams that are looking for this DNA change or something's got to give. Jason Robertson's name is out there. And, the Leafs, they're not going to trade, I don't think, one of their, like, truly best players. But could there be someone in the middle that all of a sudden they'd be willing to trade that, again, is just about opening up flexibility, and maybe another team can swoop in and get them? I don't know. I mean, you got to be creative at this point.
You know what's crazy, Hayes?
Yeah.
Guys, think about the idea of keeping Rickard Rakell and Rust last year, and then all of a sudden decided to trade them. That, like, are they insane? Why didn't you trade them last year?
I think personally, I'll let you weigh in, Pierre, but I think it was the mandate. You do everything you can to try and make the playoffs. They didn't do it. Now it's game on. I feel like now you can open the floodgates and move everybody out. That's I feel like the first 2 years of Kyle's contract was try and make the playoffs. Now they've fired the coach, and I think everyone's available. Outside of the guys with the contracts that either can control their own destiny.
Yeah, I think that's bang on, Noodles. Like, I mean, I don't agree with it, and Hayes and I have been on the same wavelength with Pittsburgh for a number of years now. But I think Ron Extall got fired. He was hired by the previous ownership group to tear down the Penguins and to rebuild them. And when Fenway bought the team, they told Ron Extall to get lost, and because they didn't want to tear it down. And Kyle Dubas is just following orders. He got hired, and the pretense was, we're not ready to see a tear down yet. I think it's ridiculous. I think the writing was on the wall, and it's even more ridiculous when you consider how successful Washington's retooling has been when you talk about similar teams in similar eras. But now, they're listing on everyone that aren't legacy guys. I mean, they're not, they're not going to move Malkin or Crosby, but they're, Russ is the guy that is the one that teams are calling on the most. But they didn't decide to sell until really midway through last year when they decided to look more towards the future.
Pierre, just before we get you out of here, when you said you and Hayes were on the same wavelength, what does that mean? What was the wavelength?
Trade Sydney.
I think that we were on the Pittsburgh needs to wake up and smell the coffee train before a lot of other people, I think.
That is accurate.
You guys had like
That is
private
100%
meetings?
factual.
Private meetings?
Yeah. Well, we're just smart guys.
I mean, hey, I'm not allowed to divulge my sources on my private meetings with Brian Hayes. I mean,
That's right. It'll stay private. You have no idea who I'm talking to when I'm talking to people.
That's my line. That's my line.
And it sounds just as ridiculous coming out of my mouth.
No, it doesn't, because you have no idea who I talk to, and it's.
Well, I talked to Pierre, and he and I we see the
apparently
light.
So.
We see the light. All right, Pierre. We'll catch you down at the Cup final. Enjoy tomorrow night.
Hey, by the way, Brian, offline, send me a recommendation for a steakhouse in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I got a buddy traveling there for work this week, and I've actually never been, so I just want to send that along to
him. There's a lot of beauties out there, believe me. Now that we're saying this on the air, you're going to get 1 million tweets. Check your Twitter account in like 5 minutes. You'll get some beauties.
Hence why I said it. All right.
Exactly. See you. There he is, Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. He and I, we were there first. We saw it before.
Well, you were really banging the Sydney crowd. Like this was
years ago.
Well, a year and a half ago at least. You're going, Sydney's got to get out of there.
I think it's been more. I think it's more than 2 years where he's like, that's enough. That's enough.
I hope he finally snaps out of it and says, just let's do it. Rip the Band-Aid off. Let me go. It's not about letting me go. I think Pittsburgh would happily move on from him, which is crazy. Maybe not ownership, but I think management. And, again, you get him on the market, Jonathan Taves on the market. Like, all of a sudden, you got some things cooking in terms of old-school players, like changing the identity of a team.
That's fishy, though. But, like, as much as everyone would want to see Mario back in that position again, they want to buy the team back. Like,
it's weird.
Somebody hates something.
Something's going on there that they're not fond of. All right, Scott Vale coming up from Oakmont ahead of the U.S. Open and our U.S. Open picks. We'll get to that next.
TSN takes pole position for your NASCAR coverage.
Unbelievable!
All right, U.S. Open picks coming up here in just a few moments. Best bets later in the hour on Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Cup Final Game 4 tomorrow. Jays are on a heater. What a week in sports, man. You can't beat it. U.S. Open, Oakmont tomorrow. The way people are talking about this course, it's as if it's impossible. Like, basically, the buildup is it's impossible.
Those flyovers, Hayes, were hilarious this morning. If you hit it there, you're screwed. Pick your ball up and go home.
This is
there,
death. Over there, death. Like, it's just, it's a lot of hyperbole.
Did you see one hole of all the flyovers where they're like massive birdie? 17 is. 17 is drivable par 4.
Maybe, and that's about it. So here's a guy that is at Oakmont. Keegan Bradley, obviously, in the tournament. He's going to be doing everything he always does, but I wonder if there's an extra element of, like, amateur psychiatrist that you got to play if you're caddying at Oakmont this week. Here's our good buddy, Scotty Vale. Does it feel that way, Scott? Like, do you prepare for the mental grind of Oakmont this week as much as anything else?
So this week, first of all, hello, boys. So this week, Keegan and I have decided we're going to go full negative. We did it at Memorial. We finished, I think, 7th or 8th. So we complain about every single hole, the slope of the greens, the rough that you can't get out of. We're going to do that. His mental guy's not very happy with our game plan for this week, but it worked a couple of weeks ago, so that's what we're going to do this week.
I like that. So, like, everything is the superintendent screwed you. This is dumb, bad, like greasy pin. It's kind of like
rough too high, unplayable
like
hole.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
I like that approach, man. And, like, you've been on the grounds there. You see it. Because Owen and I have been joking, like, the Golf Channel is playing this up like it's just a souped-up golf course that is simply impossible to score. Like, do you see it that way? Like, be reasonable with us. Like, how tough really is this course?
I will say in all my years of caddying, I've been out here for 17, 18 years and caddying for 20-plus. This is the hardest golf course I've ever caddied on. I mean, I think it's somewhat fair tee to green, but when you get to the greens, I mean, it makes Augusta's greens look mild. They've got pins that are going to be on slopes of 3.5%, where they say the general rule on tour is 3 would be the max slope percentage. So the greens are tricked up. They were supposed to take the mowers to the rough a little bit this afternoon, but I think that's just maintenance on them. And the rough is, I mean, you could lose a ball, literally. We hope the spotters have good eyes, because if they don't, we're going to be in trouble if we miss a fairway. It's that bad.
Scotty, the holes are so long, but finding the fairways are so imperative. Like, does that mean, like, just munch 3-woods all over the place, or do you got to get out the big stick and just hammer it and hope for the best?
There's some holes, because the course isn't that long. I want to say it's 7,400 yards, and that's not long by our standards these days. So, I mean, there's places, the fairways are wide enough. There's some that are a little bit goofy and tricked up where you could hit some and it all slopes towards the rough. 12's one in particular, 15's somewhat like that. But I think the fairway width it's more than fair. I mean, it's a U.S. Open. It's a torture test, though. It's going to be difficult.
So you're saying that nobody's going to be able to shoot a 64 like somebody we know?
I heard about that one. Well, there's an inquiry sign out on that one. Hold all tickets. I don't think there'll be anybody shooting 64, but I think somebody could maybe in the first couple of days, because it's rained and it's somewhat soft, I think somebody could shoot 3 or 4 under. But I think, that depends on pin placements. We'll get those probably in the next couple of hours, and we'll have a better idea of what tomorrow brings. I don't think it'll happen on the weekend, but there's a chance for some weather. But the greens are pretty soft. They said they wanted to get them to 14 or 15 on the stem, but they were quicker today, probably 12.5. I see maybe a 3 or 4 under, maybe tomorrow, and then the USGA probably won't like that, so they'll trick it up a bit. That's what they're kind of known for doing. So maybe 2, 3, 4 under to start the day tomorrow, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday probably hold on tight.
So if the USGA, or I guess we came to you and Keegan and said, we'll give you even par through 72 holes, you think you'd take that, or would you rather just roll the dice and play?
No, sign me up for it. I'd happily take that, and I know that would be comfortably in the top 5, I would think, and maybe a chance to win it. I mean, the last time it was here, I want to say 3 under won it, and it seems like every 10 years you come to Oakmont, every tee is 30 yards further back. Keegan's been laughing because he's been YouTubing, previous U.S. Opens here, and guys are hitting irons off tees and short irons. Cabrera hit like a 9-iron in on 18 on the final round when he won. And now it's, we played it the other day and we had like 235 to the flag. Obviously that's not close to a 9-iron. So they juice everything up. One more tee seems to be added every time you come to these sort of tournaments. So, yeah, even par I'd be ecstatic to take even par and not have to be out there grinding and figuring out where you can land it or, where the wind is and all that sort of stuff.
Scotty, how do you handle your player when he's going a little bit sideways? Because there's videos surfacing online of Greller and Spieth where they're just like, Greller is like, hit it here, and Spieth's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then he's like, why? And then he's like, because I want to hit it 10 yards farther. And it just goes back and forth. Like, do you just give your opinion and say, this is what you should do, and then the player decides whatever the hell he wants? Or do you ever get into it with your guy, or how does your interactions go?
No, I think for the most part, those two they're special individuals. I think Jordan likes Greller to tell him, and then he baits him and he baits him. We played with them Sunday at Memorial a couple of weeks ago in the par 5, the 5th hole. Jordan wanted to hit driver, and we were listening to them, and Keegan and I chuckled at the conversation, and Greller said, well, I think that's a psycho play. And he goes, psycho? And I'm howling, and I'm walking off the tee going, psycho. I like that one. And of course, Jordan hits the 3, what flares it into the right trees. I knew it should have been driver, and it's such great entertainment listening to them. But for Keegan and I, that's not his personality. He likes Jordan's the modern day Phil Mickelson. Those two, it's just such entertainment. They're special individuals as far as that is concerned. But Keegan and I, we've got a game plan. We've talked about the what ifs. What if it gets firmer? Some less clubs off the tee, and you're basically, if you get it in the fairway, obviously here, you're a leg up on the field. So that's the main goal. Whatever he feels comfortable to get in the fairway, and he'll relay that message to me. Scotty, I don't like driver here. I just don't feel quite comfortable hitting driver. So I'm all for getting it in the light green stuff first and foremost, and then deal with with the distance or whatever we have in for the second or third shot.
With Scott Vale, and that reminds me of what I was watching last night. Actually, Johnson Wagner was out. I think he was with Rahm and I want to say DJ and Mickelson, and Rahm's ball was in the first cut, and Wagner asked him a hypothetical. He said, "Would you take the first cut all week?" Which means never on the fairway, but never in the rough. And I think all 3 guys said they would take it. Where would you stand on that, Scotty? If I put your ball in the first cut, every single, the 14 holes you're going to hit driver or 3-wood or iron or whatever, the par 4s, would you take the first cut knowing you're not going to be on the fairway, but you're also not going to be in the rough?
Yeah, no, that's a no-brainer. I mean, because as soon as you're in the rough, it's probably an 85% chance that you're going to make a bogey, given the severity of the rough. We hit it in the rough yesterday on one of the holes and could barely hit a lob wedge 40 yards to get it back to the fairway. We played with Gary Woodland, and he's this big strong guy that hits it a mile, and he hit it on one hole, the Church Pew holes, on 3, and he hit it right, probably 30 yards right of the fairway, and could barely get his lob wedge back to the fairway. So first cut, sign me up. All day, every day. I'll take the occasional jumper maybe over the green, but that's okay. We can live with that. We're not chipping out and then having to worry about, hitting our third shot onto a green that's, on top of a slope that, maybe should have an alligator's mouth opening and closing.
Exactly.
Scotty, there's going to be guys losing balls in the rough, man, and they're going to be losing their mind.
We were saying that earlier this week. We hope these spotters got some good eyes. We've seen more spotters behind the tees than we've seen, to the rights and left of fairways this week. So we're hoping those spotters behind the tees maybe slide up, towards the fairways. But yeah, there'll definitely be there'll be some cases of that for sure. You got to have a good eye.
What about pace of play? That's not going to be a picnic either, man.
Pace of plays. It's been fun this week. We played a 9-hole practice round this morning at 9:30, and it was 3 hours and 10 minutes. So I'd imagine pace of play, starting with the real round starting tomorrow. It's not going to be pretty. And then thankfully I don't think there's going to be much wind, which adds to some length of time being added to the round. So it'll be a grind. It's going to be some long rounds out there.
And the crowd's notorious at the U.S. Open. Do you pick up on that? I mean, I'm sure you've played the waste management before. You've seen it all. But do you anticipate the fans factoring in? And I'm sure Keegan in particular would love that.
Yeah, the crowds are pretty good in Pittsburgh. Obviously, it's a pretty good sporting town. They've been having some great crowds out there. So they can't get too closely on a lot of the holes, but some of the tees they can. But, we love playing in front of the crowds. I mean, I think it's great. And being in a, passionate sports town like Pittsburgh, it certainly helps. So I know the locals are jazzed up for it. And people like to see carnage, right? They like to see these guys struggle, which is, that's what the USGA does to these guys and makes it painful for, players and caddies involved. But it is what it is. You know what you signed up for.
Scotty, I know you've got your checklist for Keegan. What is your checklist for your Toronto Maple Leafs this summer as far as switching things up? Do you have a few players in mind that you would like to bring into the blue and white?
Yeah, let's get the Leaf killer in. He's been killing everybody now. What has he got? How many playoff goals does he have? Let's bring that rat into Toronto.
Yes.
It was his favorite team growing up.
That's what Brad keeps telling people all of a sudden. I don't remember hearing that when he was in Boston.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. But I saw O-Dog wanted to bring the band back together for one more run. But I don't know about that. We'll see.
I don't know where the hell you saw that, pal. Yeah, I don't know what you've been watching the last month, but that has not been my narrative, I'll tell you that.
I thought you wanted the core four back. I heard you on one of the shows.
There was one of those. It was
Scotty,
a bit,
I know you're screwing with me with that comment.
No, he did bring it. You brought it up, and it was a question that was asked to you, it's about 10 days after you said people are coming up to you going,
that's all I said. I said all it takes is 10 days, and then people go into this fog again, and then they're like, oh, maybe we could just bring these guys back together. That's all I've ever said. That's crazy fans, Scotty. That's not me. You know better than that.
He's got selective hearing, boys. He's got selective hearing.
Absolutely. There he is.
I don't know what they're going to do, but people ask me who I want to win. I want Florida to win so I could say the Leafs lost to the Stanley Cup champion. At least we took them 7 games. I mean, we didn't look good in, games 5 and 7, but, we've done better than Carolina and whoever else Florida's played, Tampa. So
that's true.
It'll be interesting.
Yep. Panthers in 5, and the Leafs are basically second place.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. We'll take that,
and
right?
they'll be the Cup favorite. The day after the Cup's handed out, they'll be the favorites again.
They will, Jamie. That's insane.
As they should be.
Be the favorites to win next year. So.
All right, Scotty. Well, don't you worry about the Leafs. You worry about the Open. And Oakland will be pulling for you guys as we always do. Thank you for this.
All right, boys. Take care. Always nice to be on the show with you guys.
You got it. There is our good friend Scott Vale, who will, of course, be on the bag for Keegan Bradley this week. And
they start early tomorrow, eh?
Yes. Oh, man, it's a massive field, right? And coverage of the U.S. Open on OverDrive brought to you by Subaru. Head to your local Subaru dealer for lease rates from 1.99% for 24 months on select models. See dealer for details. Longest day of the year, right, coming up. And that's the beauty of it. You can start at 7, and guys will be out on the course until 8:30, 8:45.
Hayes, can you imagine me and you walking 9 holes, and it took 3.5 hours?
Yes. Crazy. But these
what
guys,
are they doing, man?
Well, they're hitting different shots, and they're dropping balls down and probably practicing around the green and putting balls in bunkers and trying stuff out. But it's amazing. Like, again, the Golf Channel was following Ryan Fox today, and he was saying they had money games going. Like, these guys go out there and they play and they gamble, and like these golfers, man. I didn't tell you guys what I witnessed, which I had such a great appreciation. I'm not going to name the player. It's not anything bad, but I saw this guy on Saturday roll through the rink hole. He put his peg in the ground, and I have it documented at about 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. So he's about to play 14. He's got 5 holes left. I saw him burning into the gas station at 5:25 for a couple bags of ice. An hour and 20 minutes later, which means this guy finished his round, waved at a few people, and absolutely burned rubber out of the
trunk slamming.
And I could not believe it when I saw this guy, and I was so happy because I love him, and he's.
It was Charlie Hoffman.
No, it wasn't.
It was Charlie Hoffman. He got beers.
He
got beers with ice.
It was not Hoffman. It was not Charlie Hoffman.
Somebody like that.
I'm going to try to pick this guy when we get to our picks here. All right, we'll come back and we'll make some picks. We'll get to our best bets as well. And Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
TSN takes pole position for your NASCAR coverage.
Unbelievable! Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, we'll get to our best bets on Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight. But we're on the eve of the U.S. Open. It's going to be a great tournament. We got 4 Canadians in the field. And the OverDrive PGA picks are brought to you by TaylorMade. When you need more performance, distance, and speed from your golf ball, it's time to switch. Learn more about the all-new TP5 and TP5X at TaylorMadeGolf.ca.
Let's do Canadians right now. You get 2 each.
Okay.
I'll take Mac Hughes and Corey Connors.
All right.
I love it. Nick Taylor and Taylor Pendrith. Those are the 2 guys I was looking at. I do think Connors, I think he's going to hit a lot of fairways. I'm wondering what it's going to be like around the green for him. But I like Nick Taylor, the way he played at the Memorial a couple of weeks ago. Played really well last week. I think Nick's in the hunt here, man. Like he can grind, and I love Pendrith after the Pro-Am, clearly. All right, there you go. Separate the 2 right off the bat. You get
your guy Scheffler.
I got Scheffler. You got McIlroy. All right, established, out of the way. I'll give you the
getting a little dirty. That's dirty.
Doesn't have to happen
anymore.
No,
I know, but we committed to it. We committed to it. But man, I'm only doing it because we're both TaylorMade staff guys. I'm taking McIlroy.
Okay, you go ahead with McIlroy. I'll take our other colleague, Scotty Scheffler.
There you go.
Okay, you go ahead. You get the next pick.
It's very simple. I don't know how his attacking scheme is going to work on this golf course, but he's done it twice. He's mashed and gouged at Wingfoot, smash and gouge at Pinehurst in the native area. Can he do it at Oakmont? I'm taking Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, I think that's the appropriate, first pick, so to speak, once you get the ball rolling here. I think that makes sense. I think I'm going to stay and live and take John Rahm. Rahm has won a U.S. Open. He won at Torrey. He cuts the ball. You always talk about it. Who fades the ball, cuts the ball. He hits a great fade. He hits a lot of fairways when he's on. Now, I worry about his general mood swings at a place like this. Like, if that guy loses a ball in the rough, he will go bananas. But
yes.
I like his game. I don't know what it's like on Live personally. Like, he's top 10s all the time. I don't know what that means. But I'll take John Rahm.
I'm going to take a guy that pops his head up at majors sometimes, and he bites you like a snake. Brooks Koepka.
Oh.
I'm worried about Brooks, man. I don't know where his head's at, dude. But I hear you. U.S. Opens, he's won 3 of them, right? I think he's won 3 U.S. Opens.
Yeah.
He shows up. There's no denying that. He shows up. I'm going to take Shane Lowry. Shane Lowry.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick.
He's in the mix a lot. He's been playing great golf. He hasn't won in a long time. He was leading here at Oakmont in 16, I believe, when DJ came back and got him. But he likes this course. He plays it well. He's on fire right now, Shane Lowry.
You want to talk about a guy that can hit a bullet piss missile cut? That guy's name is Colin Morikawa.
Yep. Good pick. Morikawa. Another guy hasn't won in a long time.
But he can hit just a butter cut, find the middle. He doesn't move his rock that long out there, but I think there's a chance he could get it done this week.
Okay. I'm going to go back to a well here. I think we each take, a couple more quick ones.
Can I give you a 2-pack and then you give me
Let me throw Ludwig in there. I'm going to take Oberg and get it out of the way. He's going to win a major at some point. This feels like the place that he's going to possibly do it.
I'll come on top of that and whack you on top of the head like whack-a-mole, I'll take Xander Schauffele.
Okay.
And you know what I'm going to do? Sign of the cross.
Yeah.
I am going to take.
Don't do it. Don't take speed.
I am going to take
speed. It's
Giordano,
stupid and you know it.
Giordano Spieth. I have to do it.
Okay.
He's a drug I can't stop. I can't quit you, Jordan Spieth.
Take him and then take Keegan Bradley because you're going to complain if I take him.
You're not taking Keegan Bradley.
Okay.
And make sure Doogie puts Keegan Bradley at the top of my list.
Okay. I don't even know how many more picks you have than me, Noodles. I don't know if you're even tracking anymore.
I was writing them down.
Hang on a
and
sec.
You guys are all over
Interruption.
the map.
I got one more guy, and I love him. And Jack Nicklaus did him dirty last week. Benny Griffin. I'm taking Benny Griffin because Jack screwed you over with those comments, saying you weren't even close to Scotty Scheffler.
You got to get a couple more, Hayes, because he's ahead of you.
I have 4 picks. Is that what you're telling me?
No, not 4.
I'm in the whole 4-pack.
O-Dog has 10. Hayes needs 4 more.
Oh, my
4
God.
more.
Okay, let me run off a 4-pack here. Ryan Fox. I'm taking the Fox and the Fiddle. I'm taking the Fox and the Fiddle, and I love them.
Back to back.
Sam Burns. Sammy's been playing well. We just saw. I'll take both of them.
You know who's a little weasel you should take that might move his way around that course? Tyrrell Hatton.
I worry about his headspace, though. I worry about.
Can you imagine what's going to come out of his mouth?
I know. That's why I'm going to do it again. I do it every major because I listen to these live guys talk about how great he is. I'm going to take Joaquin Niemann. I'll take Joaquin Niemann.
Dude, he has not come through for any of us.
He never does anything at any of these majors. And then with the last pick, do I take Thomas? Do I take Sepp Straka, Thomas, or Russell Henley? Which one should I take?
I gotta take Rusty Henley. I need Rusty Henley.
All right, you take Henley. I'll take JT and Sepp. A ridiculous list of players that we just took.
We gotta come through with a winner. That's gotta be a winner in there.
I feel like we need something more of like a long shot, but we've been doing these picks for about an hour now. It's longer than a round at Oakmont. All right. You know what? Let me throw one more in. Last one, and this is it.
Is this a long shot?
Yes, I'm going to go with a long shot, like a long shot. Jason Day, long shot.
My long shot is going to be Wyndham Clark.
Okay. Won at LACC a couple years ago. OverDrive PJ Picks brought to you by TaylorMade. When you need more performance, distance, and speed from your golf ball, it's time to switch. Learn more about the all-new TP5, TP5X at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. And TaylorMade will, of course, be well represented. They got these really cool, like down in the States, they've got the American-looking flavor stuff. But up here, like the Canadian TaylorMade, TaylorMade.ca, have launched a bunch of, like a Canadian line of like hats and
golf balls, all of
balls and covers and stuff like really, really cool stuff. And I'm sure that'll show up a lot down at Oakmont in the U.S. Open. So there you go. All right, picks are in. We've taken about a half the field. There's 160 golfers, and we have 80 of them on our teams. But it's all good, man. It's all good. And Scheffler is like I read a stat today that there's more money coming in on Scheffler than every other player combined.
You remember when Tiger won the U.S. Open and then he went to St. Andrews after, and it was basically they had never seen a favorite like that in the sport of golf?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get the feeling about Scheffler going into this tournament where it's like this guy basically just has to play his game and he might win.
Yeah, he's the biggest the biggest favorite since Tiger in 09, I believe, at the U.S. Open. So he won. He beat who did he beat? Rocco Mediate in 08, and then like that was still prime Tiger. That was the last time we saw odds like this at a U.S. Open. That's what Scheffler's getting, but that's how much money's coming in on him right now. So I'm not surprised. The books are trying to protect themselves. But, Bryson, he's won the U.S. Open twice. He put on a clinic last year. McIlroy was right in the hunt. McIlroy's capable of doing it. It just doesn't feel right now in terms of
I kind of like Bryson because even at Wingfoot, I'm like, you can't attack this golf course like an animal and start hammering your driver everywhere and win the U.S. Open. And he's done it twice.
Yeah.
But this does seem like a different beast, but he might just get up there and start smashing this thing around and do it again.
Well, he did say that. Like, at Winged Foot, that's where he kind of created the bomb and gouge type of era. He kind of brought it in where he just hit it anywhere as far as he could, and he figured it out from there. He did admit in his media, I think yesterday, he said, this is not Winged Foot. Like with all due respect, this is a different beast around the greens and – so, we'll see. We'll see what he's got in store. But the guy's, he's a winner. He's proven that.
Yes.
And there's certain guys that you just know they're winners, and DeChambeau's one of those guys. All right, so there they are. Those are the picks, courtesy of TaylorMade, and it's going to be a fun U.S. Open on TSN all week. And Best Bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm just simply going to take the points. Pacers with the points tonight. Oklahoma City has not been great on the road. You're getting 5 points. And, it's up to 5.5 even now. It's been bet back up. So I'm taking the 5.5. I think it's a good game, close game. I would not be surprised if Indiana won tonight. You've had a couple of days off again in the NBA Finals. A lot of time off.
Such a momentum killer, man. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that, like, yesterday we just had nothing in either sport. Like, how would we have nothing yesterday?
That's, you know what? We started the show. That's why that's why the media down there in Florida are pissed off at the Oilers going, like, we're sitting around here for 2 days. Like, I get it. Like, it just, and this is TV. This is way above our heads, way above our pay grade. But I don't mind the 2 days off in between travel days as far as switching cities and that. Outside of that, this should have been Monday, Wednesday, 2 days off, Saturday in Edmonton, and then back 2 days off and go vice versa. But it's just, you see in the NBA, same thing. Like, it's just you're so fired up. Yes, it gives you something to look forward to, but man, I don't
I can't wait for the prickly questions tomorrow.
Yeah.
You guys didn't want to talk yet. Like, it'll be prickly. I love it.
It'll have a different tone. It'll be a fun tone tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, so Game 3 of the NBA Finals. And, again, the Jays winning today, sweeping the Cardinals, man, on the road. Jays are red hot, hottest team in baseball right now. Loving it. All right, good stuff. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, web, and up on YouTube Live. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
You and Pierre LeBrun. Tunnel vision thinking. 4 p.m.?
We'll chat then.